Okay, we're in business. Councillor Pearson, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to everyone. But can I remind people to be polite and courteous at all times, please? Thank you. Can we start the business, please? First item 1 is apologies for absence.
Yes, just a couple of formalities before we go to item 3. Apologies for absence. I've received 2 this evening. One from Councillor Doris Turner, who's unwell, and the other from Councillor Josh Green, who has a work commitment tonight. What's Council's views?
Madam Mayor, propose those apologies are accepted. Any other apologies not received are recorded as unaccepted.
Councillor Waters, nothing's going to second it. Yep.
Okay, so I'm just having a quick flick around the screen. Is that agreed?
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Councillor Rome wishes to speak.
You're on mute, Councillor Rome.
Yes, is Councillor Geddes going to declare an interest in the item regarding 71 Kingfisher Drive at this meeting?
Councillor Geddes, you're on mute as well.
Yes, I know the gentleman. He lives 5 doors off me.
Oh, can you believe this? Sorry, folks, my pen's just run out. Bear with. Always ready. South Shields motto. Yeah, the top off.
Okay.
Right, thanks. Okay, we're on to item 3. Councillor Pearson, if you just want to introduce the item.
This is, sorry, Councillor Thornton, did you want to speak there before?
Yes, thank you, if that's okay. If I can just declare an interest in respect of planning. I won't be taking part in any of the meeting regarding planning applications as the chair of planning for Sunderland City Council.
Fine.
How on earth? I don't know.
Yeah, thank you.
So, item 3 is the Northumbria Police and Crime Commissioner and the Area Superintendent, Northumbria Police. Speakers to be heard to respond to members and residents' concern. Does members wish to suspend standing orders and allow the public to speak, or are we okay? Councillor Elvin?
Yes, I propose that we suspend standing orders after the Police and Crime Commissioner and Sarah have made their presentations in order that they may ask questions.
That's fine. Yeah, Councillor Cornsey, do you second that? Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Okay, we'd like to go ahead to the Police and Crime Commissioner, sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for having me at the Town Council meeting. It's very much appreciated, the opportunity to come and talk to you. And my proposition this evening is if I just give you a very brief overview of some of the things that we've been focusing on, including the now published police and crime plan. But I'll leave most of the time for questions. We've got Chief Superintendent Sarah Pitt with us to answer any more operational questions, and I'm sure she'll have some things to say as well when I've concluded. So as I said, thank you for having me. I have been Police and Crime Commissioner since July 2019. And it has been quite an interesting time to take up office as we've had a pandemic for the vast majority of that time. I started off by getting out and meeting as many people as possible, attending meetings like this in person, trying to raise the profile of what a Police and Crime Commissioner does so that people were able to express their views and to tell us honestly what the issues were in their communities. But obviously that was stemmed by a pandemic, and we've had to find new and different ways to do things. And so still being able to get out and do meetings socially distanced when necessary, when sensible, when we can accommodate those. And otherwise, obviously, it's actually been brilliant being able to attend a lot of forums around the region via Zoom, because actually it tends to be that a lot more people can and are comfortable attending. So that's all really good. It's one of the very few positives to come out of the last few months. Despite the fact that we've had a pandemic, I have consulted very widely across the region on the police and crime plan, which is now published. We had over 6,000 responses to that plan. Again, the plan initially was to go out and do a big tour of the region, speak to people in person, grab people in busy centres and have conversations, but the virus put pay to that. And so we did a very, very extensive online consultation, lots of work on the telephone as well to speak to residents across the region who aren't digitally enabled, as well as working with organisations and groups to collect views from, again, those people who weren't able to join in online. And so I'm really pleased that I think that it's an accurate reflection of what the people of Northumbria think. However, I also think that if this last year has taught us anything, it's taught us that we can't plan for the next 4 years and know that everything will be as we expected it to. And so I want to refresh this continually. I want it to be a working document. It's important to hear the views of people like yourselves and obviously take your views from your communities as well. And so I would encourage you to ask people to actively engage with us because, as I said, it's a moving document. The contents of this will be of no surprise to anybody who is a councillor. I themed it around fighting crime, preventing crime and improving lives. I think that we absolutely have to back the police to fight crime, to make arrests. We've got to tackle serious and organised crime. It's something that people are very concerned about. A lot of people, particularly young people, have raised concerns with me about gangs and knife crime, and as well as we don't have issues like that in the scale of lots of other places in the country, it's our job to keep it that way. And so we're very clear on that. Additionally, antisocial behaviour has been brought up consistently in the police and crime plan, which is no surprise. It has dropped because of the pandemic, although the figures are skewed because of the COVID crimes counting as antisocial behaviour. But we've got to keep our finger on it. And actually, I'll be asking the force to take a more task force orientated approach to antisocial behaviour. We'll be tackling some serious nuisance areas such as motorbikes, not just locally, but through some national lobbying as well. And pushing the violence reduction unit, which I've established, to be making those early interventions to prevent antisocial behaviour happening in our streets in the first place. This is a very quick overview, and obviously I'm happy to go into more detail. I think in order to reduce crime sustainably, we have to prevent it. We've got to understand what causes it. We've got to understand who's at risk of committing crime and which parts of our communities need attention. We've got to provide things like youth services, youth services, family services, services for people who have got new babies, drug and alcohol treatment services. And so I've established a violence reduction unit to do all of those things and to restore some of the services that have been lost to austerity. I'm working very closely with all of the councils, with the police, housing associations, with business, with a whole range of agencies, with the NHS, with public health, right across the region to make sure that they're all plugged in and that this creates a shift change, and this is how we do things in this region. We work to prevent crime and to stop it from happening in the first place.
Not working.
Sorry, was there a question?
Brilliant. No, I think you need to go carry on, please.
Okay, it's something that we have to commit to long term. We got this up and running very quickly, but thus far it's been annually funded, and I'm committing to this for as long as it takes to make the difference that we need to make. It can't be something that we do for short term. It has to be a long term approach. We're also still continuing to do some really groundbreaking work in Northumbria on domestic abuse and sexual violence. They're really important things. Domestic abuse makes up a huge part of the crime that's recorded in the area. And so we need to take innovative approaches, and we've been working with the likes of, well, we've been working with perpetrators, really, perpetrator programs to stop and break the cycle of abusers from moving from family to family, as well as some of the traditional things that we've been doing there. And the final thing that I'll mention tonight, although the plan obviously covers issues such as burglary and road crime, rural crime, all of the things that affect people day to day, is victims. Victims need to be at the heart of the system. Victims need to be supported, whether they've been a victim of something where they need to be a witness in court, or whether they've been a victim of something really severe, such as a sexual assault. We need to have the right level of victim services. We've had a review of those. They'll be moving into Northumbria Police so that we can see more victims more regularly and have more contact with them, as well as continuing with our specialist services. And one of the things that I want to be looking at is how do we provide victims of antisocial behaviour with support? Because at the moment, we're actually not able to spend our funding on that. Government doesn't allow us to do that. And so we need to look at how we those victims, because we don't need them to be overlooked. So that's a very quick whistle stop. A couple of the other things, as well as the plan, I've been very lucky that we have access to Commissioner's Community Fund, which is all around preventing crime and delivering our objectives in our area. We were able to recondition some of that to support the charities and community organisations that were helping people through COVID. I'm very, very conscious that as the COVID crisis continues, we go deeper and deeper into a recession, and recession leads to an increase in crime because of lower levels of employment. So we're trying to plan for all of that and look at how we create an environment that limits the impact that has on our young people. And we also have to look at the impact it's had on elderly and vulnerable people, people with loneliness. And all of that has been something that we've looked at throughout with the Coronavirus Response Fund. We've put over £500,000 of extra funding into the community and voluntary sector across the region to support people directly. So that's a little bit of a whistle stop of what I'm doing. And I'm happy to have questions, but obviously I'll hand over to Chief
Superintendent. Yeah. Yeah, good evening, everybody. Obviously, just to introduce myself, I am Sarah Pitt. I am the Area Commander of Southern Area Command and have responsibility for local policing in Sunderland and South Tyneside. So just with regard to leading on probably what the Commissioner has said with regard to the priorities that have been set, I'll just talk a little bit around the force. You will have heard nationally in terms of the uplift with regard to policing. Even during the pandemic, we have continued to recruit new police officers into Northumbria Police, and we've recruited in excess of 450 officers this year alone. Clearly, they take a period of time in terms of their training to be fully operational in terms of their deployment, but we are continuing into recruiting police officers and police staff into Northumbria, which is we've obviously had to change the way that we go about our training process of those officers through the pandemic, and as is most organisations have to really change and adapt the way that we've had to police as well through the pandemic because of different challenges that face us with staff who have been obviously contracted COVID and also in terms of us being able to police the legislation which have been set out by the government. So, as I mentioned, you, in terms of Hetton, have 2 dedicated neighbourhood policing teams, of which is 2 sergeants, 8 PCs and 6 CSOs. And they've been doing some fantastic work in Hetton, particularly under Operation Avalanche. And I would like to thank, at this moment in time, your support and also the community's support with regard to that ongoing work, which has been to tackle antisocial behaviour and some crimes that have been occurring in the area, such as lead theft and burglaries in particular. I will at this point out, and I know full well that there is still issues with regard to antisocial behaviour, and in particular with regard to motorcycle disorder. And just to give you probably a few facts and figures with regard to that, because I know that is of interest to yourselves, is that motorcycle disorder in Sunderland is up by 34% this year, and it equates to 12% of all total antisocial behaviour which occurs in Sunderland. And particularly to the Hetton area, year on year in terms of January and February, compared to this time last year, we have seen a rise as well of 18 reports of antisocial behaviour with regard to motorcycle disorder. We haven't rested or haven't taken no action with regard to this. There's been quite an in-depth operations that have been run, but under the leadership of the local neighbourhood inspector, Nick Jarvin, to tackle this disorder, not only in Hetton, but we've been working across the whole of Sunderland and South Tyneside and with our neighbours in Durham
to tackle this antisocial behaviour that we know causes issues within the community. And we're going to continue to do that because we're very sighted in terms of the issues that it does cause. But what I would do is ask for your continued support to provide us the information and intelligence to say who was actually committing this disorder so that we can actually tackle it head on, to seize these motorbikes and to educate the wider community to tackle the issues. We're also looking to see what else is going on nationally with regard to ongoing best practice with regard to this, because it's not only a Sunderland issue, it's not only a Northumbria issue regarding motorcycle disorder, it's a national issue. And there is some good work going on in other areas such as Police Scotland, where they've identified a particular area for off-road motorbikes, and they have seen a reduction with regard to motorcycle disorder. So we are looking to see if we can implement as much as we possibly can to try and reduce that ongoing problem. I know for yourselves, the main calls that we get are around Hetley Hill Golf Course and around Hetton Lions Country Park. And like I say, officers are deployed regularly in those areas, but obviously have those challenges around being able to actually catch the perpetrators. So we need your support to be able to do more. As I've said, under the leadership of Nick Jarvin, the team have really been tackling the antisocial behaviour in the area. And just to give you an overall figure, antisocial behaviour is down by 30%, and actually youth antisocial behaviour is down by 41% in your area as a result of that targeted activity. And what I will say on behalf of Northumbria Police, we are really committed to continuing to have neighbourhood teams, to actually have that local focus, to tackle local problems and to work with yourselves around local issues. I'll probably just finish off there and leave it open for questions from yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hopper.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Commissioner, Superintendent. And I think I can see Inspector Jarvin hiding off camera at the back there. First of all, I'd just like to say yes, thank you very much for the continued good work. But I thought this was going to be quite a lengthy discussion tonight. I think we've set aside an hour for it. And I would like, so I've prepared a paper which is going to take us about 5 minutes to get through, basically with all the local issues on. So if it's okay, I'd just like to present that, and then we can have a discussion around it if that's okay. So it's worth bearing in mind, this is only what I know, and what makes me really nervous is what is going on that I have no knowledge of. It's difficult to know how to pitch this item. Too much, I risk a raised eyebrow with no action. Not enough information, and I risk a raised eyebrow with no action. In this case, I am aiming to give you just the right amount of information so that you buy what I am saying, in the hope of introducing a strategy that will cure all evils. Of course, it's not my job to sell you anything, because as a taxpayer, just like you, I have already bought what I want to sell, which is law and order, paying for it many times over. It's a quandary, is it not? The laws for the guidance of wise men and the obedience of fools. Something has gone wrong because the fools are not being obedient, and in actual fact are running rings around the perceived wise men. One thing is clear, serious criminality is on the rise, with no visible evidence of receding. Drugs are the root of the evils in this community. It connects almost every criminal act. If I may, I would like to share an insight to life in Houghton and Hetton for a lot of residents. Robbery, evidence collected, perpetrators identified, not interviewed, not arrested, no prosecution. Random acts of criminal damage, including the interchange had 28 windows smashed. Not a passing opportunist, but a concerted effort to destroy the target. Antisocial behaviour, swimming baths, multiple cars damaged, multiple vehicles set afire, 10 at my last count. Petrol bombs used to destroy buildings such as the local boxing club, and 2 attempts made on houses. Tracking devices found on vehicles by criminal, placed there by criminals. Given to the police, there have been no progress reports or visible investigations. Robberies going unsolved, vehicles rammed off roads, drivers dragged out of cars and beaten with bats and bars. Machete attacks, yes, more than one. Motorbikes and quads ripping through our community, and the police are powerless to act as they don't have the correct vehicles and a policy not to pursue. Fly tipping happens as regularly as dog walking. Money extortion. Most of these incidents I have mentioned have an S on the end, which means that they are not isolated or one-off. Here is a short story, but true as it is being told to me. A young man watched in horror as an incident took place. He had no involvement whatsoever. He was attacked, pinned to the floor, and one of the attackers tried to put a spade into his head. He managed to get a hand free and put it up to protect himself. The spade sliced down his thumb and into his arm. He was also kidnapped. Threats to life had been made, and the attackers are still walking the streets. Apparently, they were charged with GBH when the intent, I believe, was to kill. People have lost faith because the police can't be there 24 hours a day, but the criminals are. There are threats to life and property on a daily basis, many of which do not get reported for fear of reprisal. Drugs supplied openly without any fear. What impression is it giving to our young children? You want them to speak up, but you can't protect them when they do. A CID officer visited a victim waiting for an operation in a hospital bed and advised him not to make a statement as he was worried that the police could not protect him or his family. And all this happened within a mile of my house. The people who respect the police and the job they do are losing faith fast, not in the individuals, but in the organisation. This area has been nicknamed the Wild West. I don't agree with that, because in every town in the Wild West, they had a jailhouse, a sheriff and deputies. We don't even have a police station. It's time for change. We don't need an avalanche. We need a police presence. Your officers need support, the correct vehicles and the use of technology to detect crimes. It's not just about pointing out problems. We have to assist. I understand. So here is our suggestions. We would like to see a comprehensive EMPR system that tracks vehicles. 56, I have mapped out, is the magic number in Hetton at a cost of £28,000, covering every entrance, every exit to estates and main roads. When you cast your net, make sure all the holes have been filled. The drugs don't walk onto our streets, they are transported, the same as the criminals that are applying extreme influence through violence. A change in the pursuit policy with the correct vehicles, 25,000. Drones used for the same reason, 15,000. We need to work together to change the mindset that the police are not the enemy and you can protect people. And finally, we are told you are short on resources. We can't be everywhere all the time and the money is not there. And everyone complains when you are doing your best, but it's not good enough. There is a way that we can get what we want for free. Well, not free, but collectively we have already paid for in taxes. The Safer Streets Fund that was specifically set up for problems such as this, and I believe you are aware of this, we want to be one of the areas that uses this fund. There is a maximum of 400,000 that can be claimed. Safer streets for Hetton and Horton. We don't want police no-go areas. We want criminal no-go areas. Thank you for listening, and I would welcome any comments you have. And if anybody wants a copy of the document, I'm more than happy to send it over to the police, the crime commissioner, and also all the incidents that's been mentioned. I can also get introduce you to the people who made the statements. Thank you.
Anyone else coming in? Wishing to speak? I've got 3 in the chat room. Hang on.
Madam Mayor, would it not be an idea to let the Police and Crime Commissioner and the other officer respond to some of those questions before others are put?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, but I mean, there's nobody else on there, so yeah, fine.
I know I wish to raise a question, but I think it'd be appropriate if each was raised and dealt with individually.
Sorry, can I call you Kim, or have I got to keep saying?
No, sorry, you keep phasing out, and I'm not entirely sure whether or not you're asking me to speak. Yes, so well, thank you for that, and I appreciate the rundown of from your experience. A lot of what you've mentioned there is operational, and it's unclear to me as to whether all of these crimes have been reported. Obviously, you've mentioned a couple of specific incidents which you say have been reported and either not investigated or haven't had the criminal justice outcome that you think would be appropriate. Although, as you will well know, that's often not in either the police's control or mine. But I'll ask Sarah to come in on some of the operational issues. And then I'll pick up on a couple of your suggestions as well. And I'm sure she'll have something to say about those too.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, just thank you very much for the comprehensive rundown with regard to issues in the area. As the Commissioner said, a lot of them are individual issues, some of which, as you can clearly hopefully understand, as the Chief Superintendent responsible for the whole of Sunderland and South Tyneside, I don't know the ins and outs of every incident that is reported in Horton and Hetton. However, I am very much aware of serious criminality, and it goes on across the whole of the country, to be quite honest. And yes, it is one of the areas that we are tackling around serious and organised crime, in terms of the main perpetrators, in terms of trying to bring those to justice and to gather as much information and intelligence to be able to target those offenders so that they don't cause harm and ongoing criminality within our communities, because we need and want to prevent that occurring. And there are national infrastructures around sharing that information and intelligence, because quite rightly, as you pointed out, it's not just people who live in local areas that commit organised crime, and there are patterns of offending where we see people travelling nationally to commit organised crime. What I will talk around is around drugs. From my personal perspective, with regard to the area that you live in, I don't see a great deal of information and intelligence with regard to drugs within Hetton and Horton. So again, what I would encourage people on this call to do is to share that information, and I'm quite happy to have a discussion with anybody off this call to gain that information and intelligence, so that we are able to develop that and take appropriate action should we have the information to be able to do so. As you can appreciate, with regard to the obtaining of warrants and things along those lines with regard to drugs, particularly in people's houses or accommodation and things along those lines, we need the evidence to support and back up those warrant applications. So again, I would welcome anybody that wishes to speak to us with regard to that information so that we're able to progress and tackle that issue. And yes, you're right, drugs do plight our communities from young to old. And we do welcome and will take appropriate action if we've got the information and intelligence to be able to do so. The interchange, you talked there around the interchange, and I'm very excited in terms of an incident that occurred in January with regard to the interchange, where extensive damage was caused to that by where we quickly identified the person who was responsible, who was a 14-year-old local person. Who'd come out very early in the morning, I think between 5 and 6, and decided to utilise a catapult with regard to causing that damage. And he's very, very quickly been arrested, been interviewed and put through the criminal justice system with regard to that damage. I was also aware that why we started up Operation Avalanche was because of antisocial behaviour around the interchange. And my understanding of the current position as it stands at the moment is that we have taken some quite swift action with regard to some of the youngsters that were causing the antisocial behaviour. And I'm not saying we've eradicated it totally, because we're going to continue to do that. But we have been taking some particular action with our partners to be able to try and tackle that problem itself. I've already mentioned motorcycle disorder, and I totally recognise that it is an issue. We are trying to do different activities, working with the local authority in particular, but also work with our colleagues in Durham Constabulary with regard to try and tackle the issue, because of where Hetton sits, quite closely on the border with Durham. We need to tackle that as a collective rather than trying to tackle it as Northumbria Police. Quite rightly, you mentioned the fact of drones. and things along those lines, not just for tackling motorcycle disorder. Northumbria currently don't have drones at the moment, as you quite rightly point out, but there is discussions ongoing with our Chief Officer team with regarding to the purchase and bringing drones into Northumbria. Which you'll probably be aware, because you mentioned drones, it's not quite as easy as buying a drone. You need drone pilots, and we need to be able to have processes and procedure regarding utilising drones in a police environment. It's not the same as a member of the public buying a drone, because if we gather and secure evidence as a result of that, we have to follow guidance with regard to that. And we also have to follow health and safety with regard to the use of drones. So all of that is being considered by our Chief Officer team with regard to the purchase of drones, so that we can effectively deploy them in Northumbria around tackling antisocial behaviour as well as tackling local crime issues. Move on to probably our pursuit policy. It's exactly the same as every other pursuit policy nationally. With regard to it, we do have a pursuit policy, which is built in terms of threat, harm and risk. Unfortunately, we don't, in normal circumstances, pursue off-road motorcycles, and that is the same as the national stance, because of the offences that are occurring, and the offences around driving a off-road motorcycle on common land. Clearly, if they were involved in armed criminality or serious criminality, then that's the I suppose threat and risk assessment, which is carried out by the person, which is our force operating manager, who authorises the pursuit of that vehicle. We are not going to change our stance on that. That is the national stance, and it is the same on a national perspective. If I can just probably move on to fly tipping, as you've mentioned, fly tipping, that is an issue for the local authority. We do support the local authority with regard to targeted activity, but that is the responsibility of the local authority. I'll just move on to probably crime. You mentioned there crime is on the rise. What I will say from a force perspective, crime is down by 14.4%. And in Southern itself, it's down by 13.9% with regard to overall crime this year. Obviously, clearly some of that is impacted by the pandemic, but we all obviously go on to really understand the crime patterns and trends and target our resources accordingly to be able to tackle those issues. Sorry, I keep saying you put your hand up, sorry.
Yeah, Superintendent, sorry, Councillor Thornton, I know you wanted to speak. Would it be okay if I just pursued this line, if you like, for a moment, and then just let you come in?
Councillor Elvin wants, yeah, Councillor Elvin before you, and then Councillor Thornton, yeah.
Yeah, before me.
No, you can go ahead.
Sorry, Superintendent, for interrupting it. Look, cards on the table. The reason why I wrote that paper is because most of those things on the paper haven't been reported. And the reason, so, you know, I mentioned the money extortion. The young lad who had £1,000 taken off him by the same criminal gang has moved to Leeds. One of the incidents where the guy was dragged out of the car a couple of weeks ago on the Friday night, beaten with a baton and an iron bar, he's now living in Wales. And this, we're in the grips. Yes, I know we're in the middle of a pandemic, but we're in the grips of an epidemic of fear amongst our young people who are not reporting. The crime statistics aren't a true reflection of what's going on in our community. Now, but more importantly, what I want to hear from you tonight is that you will support a proposal to apply for Safer Streets funds to get these cameras in, to get off-road bikes, and possibly get your pilots trained so you can supply the drones. There's £400,000 there waiting for somebody to apply for a scheme. You're allowed 2 schemes per constabulary. We want to be one of them. We want to end this criminality in our area. Thank you.
So,
sorry.
Can I come back a minute? So a couple of things, and I've seen that Councillor Roham's posted, will the PCC and Sarah Pitt support Councillor Hopper's proposal on ANPR? I'm not going to comment on that. That would be an operational decision for the police. And on the pursuit vehicles, as Sarah said, that's a national standard across policing. You can't pursue off-road bikes, regardless of whether you've got a bike or not, because it's dangerous. If somebody was killed in a pursuit from a police officer, the first people that would be complaining would be councillors, and I would understand that, because I would be asking very serious questions as a Police and Crime Commissioner, and I don't think it's appropriate to change that. On drones, absolutely, I think it's something that we need to be looking at. I don't know where your costings come from. I think it's a lot more than £15,000, but it's something that is being looked at. It's something that I will support. Safer street, we are still looking at that. You're allowed 2 per constabulary. We stretch from Berwick to Sunderland and everywhere in between. It's obviously a fund that's very much in demand, and there's huge areas of need in this constabulary. And so Hetton isn't the only place that has to be considered, but we haven't made a decision yet. And obviously we are considering which areas to focus on. So I thank you for your interest in it, and obviously we'll be talking about it in future.
Commissioner, I really thank you for your comments. If you don't mind, Councillor, I really don't want to let this go, because we weren't told about.
I'm not going to give you an answer this evening, so we'll come back and have a discussion about it.
Okay, then, thank you.
Councillor Thornton and then Councillor Elvin. Councillor Thornton, wish to speak now?
Yes, thank you. I really wanted to ask the question regarding prevention services. You touched on that within your presentation. In a former role, I worked in the Youth Justice Service for 15 years when the Youth Offending Teams were first established in 2000. And we had quite a lot of resources that were sort of directed towards prevention of antisocial behaviour and crime for young people. And those were really successful, and we had very low recidivism rates. Obviously, now that we're living in the age of austerity, most of those services have been cut, and I'm interested to know what your conversations with local government has been like. Do you think that there will be an investment in regard to those services going forward? So, is the will there?
So my view is that prevention is the way to solve most of these problems. I do think that we have to enforce. I think the police need to have the powers to do that. They need to have the backing to do that, and I'm all for it, and I think you'll all agree. But we also have to figure out how to stop it from happening in the first place. And so, yes, in the last 10 years or so, we have seen up to 90% cuts in our region. 75% is the average nationally for youth services, and that has led to huge levels of antisocial behaviour and raises in crime, and particularly violent crime, and some of the issues that Councillor Hopp has mentioned. Nationally, more frequently, might I add, because the other thing that I think is really important to say is that this area, Northumbria, is one of the safest places in the country, and I'm very proud of that, and we need to keep it that way. So we do have to tackle these things. So we established a violence reduction unit. We've pumped £1.6 million per year for the last 2 years, with a year forthcoming into those services, family services, youth services. And pre-pandemic, so before we start to see the impact of COVID, we were starting to see some of those violent crimes reduce quite significantly, and crime on a whole reduce significantly, and we need to continue to build on that. And that does include some big important work with local authorities and getting that buy-in to this way of working. And I do think that the desire is there, but what we need to pursue is the money. It has to be both. And so it's all very well and good saying, oh, well, you know, we need tougher sentences, we need to arrest more people, we need to pursue more people. But if 60% of people re-offend when they come out of prison, and we're not preventing the problem from happening in the first place, then we're always going to have this problem until we tackle the wider picture. So yes, police funding is difficult, local authority funding is difficult, but where we all need to get to is we realise that when these cuts are made upstream and they're made in those public services, actually it costs us more in the end game. And so that's one of the major things that I'm working on, and I think it's incumbent on us all to promote that practice, because it is the only proven way. We know it's worked in Glasgow, we know it's worked in other parts of the country, we know it's worked abroad. The other thing I would say, Councillor Thornton, just going back to Councillor Hopper's point on the reporting, I understand that communities have a reticence to report. I understand some of that is about the concern about retribution. I understand some of that is about distrust in the system or distrust in the police. I understand that some of that is probably at times about just being able to deal with it or wanting to deal with it quietly and on your own. But what I think Sarah was saying, and certainly what I'm reinforcing, is if you know about these things as town councillors, as pillars of your community, as people who know what's going on, tell us, tell the police, because otherwise, you know, nobody's psychic. You don't find this stuff out by osmosis. And yes, there's a certain amount that police can detect through intelligence, through being on the streets, through having good neighbourhood policing, and we're committed to that. And I'm pleased to say that there has been a stable neighbourhood presence in the area, but you have to have the information and you have to have that reporting, whether it comes directly or whether it comes indirectly from members of the community and community leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Elvin, and then Donna, I believe Donna Thomas wishes to speak, and then Councillor Waterston.
Sorry, I didn't know that you were going to allow Councillor Harper to come back. He was waving his hand.
Is he?
No?
No? Yeah.
No, sorry, I listened to that and I found that really interesting. But the you know, for me, trying to get people to come forward is extremely difficult. I think I'm a little bit closer to a lot of people than maybe some of the other councillors. Councillor, and you look at this as a virtual meeting.
It's rubbish.
Can you wait until Councillor Harper's finished,
I was going to
please?
say he's had 3 goes, Madam Matt. There's other members wants to come in.
Yeah, we know that, and we were told that that's okay.
No, it's fine. Thank you.
Councillor Elvin.
Yes, Madam Mayor. In the end, wishing to be fair, I saw Councillor Geddes waving at the earlier part of the session. Have you missed him, or was he just being friendly?
I don't know whether he's just being friendly. I think I've never seen him wave. So
Sorry, Councillor Elvin. Yeah, when everybody's finished, I'll come in. I'm quite happy to wait.
Okay, I didn't want to see to be jumping the gun.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Well, good evening, Police and Crime Commissioner and Area Commander. Thank you for attending. And I note at the beginning of your introduction how pleased you are to be with us this evening. And I note from all your Twitter and Facebook how much you go out into the community and talk to people, as did your predecessor. But looking back in my notes, it was since 2014 we've been asking for the Police and Crime Commission to come to the only elected institution in the area, in the Sunderland area, outside Sunderland City Council, and it's taken 7 years for you to attend. Your predecessor, having promised to attend, basically didn't ever, and so we are grateful for you attending. But I sometimes consider the platitudes about you want to be with us a little disingenuous. But I was looking at your the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners, and it says that you're the voice of the people. It says the PCC is to be the voice of the people. But I say 7 years before you come to and talk to an elected authority. And also you say that you're responsible for the totality of policing, but you're always passing the book and say, well, it's an operational decision. But if you're responsible for the totality of policing, then you are responsible for the totality of policing. You make the decisions, and you state, or your association states, that it's PC's aim to cut crime and deliver an effective and efficient police service within their force. And you are in charge of this. But from time after time, the book is always passed. You say it's not my responsibility, it's an operational decision. So I'm sometimes wonder, really, what do police and crime commissioners do? And a second question, if I may, originally when police and crime commissioners were set up, they were supposed to be independent, but now I think nearly all the police and crime commissioners are associated with a political party. to what degree does that really mean that they're independent? I mean, your predecessor, the only time she ever came to Hetton was to canvass for our local MP to be elected, and so it wonders about the independence. And the third thing I'd like to ask is, according to your accounts, you distributed £3 million to 170 organisations in the last financial year. It seems an awful lot of money, which I think a lot of people would have thought might have been better spent on employing, more bobbies on the beat. So if you could address those 3 points, I would be very grateful. Thank you very much.
Sounds like actually the issue that you've got is some of the language that's been used on various websites, but I'll address the issues. I appreciate that potentially my predecessor hadn't been to see you for quite a long time. I was elected in July 2019. I'm here.
Sorry to interrupt, please, Crime Commissioner. The answer is never, not quite a long time. Never came.
Well, I'm here now. And
I know you are, and I think it says at the beginning, I'm very grateful.
Had discussions prior to this about other dates which have not been possible for me to attend. It's a very busy diary. I'm here now, and so there's nothing disingenuous about that. So thank you for having me. And I think some of your other points, the APCC language. Policing, operational policing, they have operational independence. I am not a chief constable. You don't want two chief constables. The chief is responsible for making operational decisions about day-to-day policing. I'm responsible for overseeing the force and making sure, holding them to account, making sure that everything is done right and proper, and asking questions. People. I do that with large amounts of consultation. As you've said, I go out into the community an awful lot. I speak to an awful lot of people. We're constantly canvassing views on what people want to see from the police and feeding that in. We have formal scrutiny processes. I'm also here to lobby government to make sure that we get our fair share in Northumbria. I don't think we're achieving exactly that, but I think we're doing pretty well. And I think we're a very strong voice for what we're trying to achieve. And as you said, to reduce crime, and crime has reduced consistently in Northumbria for quite some time, as Sarah said, and some of that, well, a large amount of that is pre-pandemic as well. And so I think actually the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner is doing pretty well in the Northumbria area. In terms of the party political aspect of it, I am a Labour Party elected representative. That was always within that party political capability was always within the legislation set by the Conservatives and the Lib Dems in 2012. I treat every single individual resident with complete independence. I would never, ever, ever treat anybody differently because of their party affiliation or lack thereof. But I'm very proud of the values that I have, which are about social justice, about prevention, about investing in our communities, about supporting people. And then when it comes to the money that you can see on the accounts there, I am a commissioner. Part of my role statutorily is to commission services, to commission victim services. There are specific grants handed down from government through the Ministry of Justice, over £2 million to do just that. There's over £1 million that is earmarked and has to be spent specifically on prevention. And so those are statutory parts of the role. That money can't go into direct frontline policing. However, at every given opportunity, I will maximise the support for policing. We're recruiting above and beyond the number that government have promised. We are putting more resources in for tasers, more resources in for body armour, more resources in for vehicles, all the time trying to invest in a good quality police service and making sure they're fit for the future. And so that's an idea of what it is that we're capable of doing and what we're doing. I think the support we're able to provide the community is strong, and I think I've got a really good idea of what's going on right across the region. And that level of accountability means that people can have direct conversations with me, like you are this evening, as opposed to the previous system, which was a police authority, which was obviously made up of numerous different councils. So I didn't create the role, but that's what it does. And I think that answers your question.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right, Donna, I believe Donna Thomas was just to speak.
Good evening, Police and Crime Commissioner. Thank you for taking the 3 questions I have. As the brief of a PCC states, the main role of a PCC is to make a police force in their area efficient, effective, and to drive improvement. I'm sure tonight you'll once again hear members of the public and business owners tell you of their experiences and their resultant views that efficient, effective are not words I can honestly use. Given this dissatisfaction, I'm sure you'll hear it time and time again. Question 1 is around, while acknowledging the police are playing catch up after years of underfunding, I understand you received 2.7 million from the Home Office. This is the money that's ring fenced for you to give out as grants to various organisations and well-meaning organisations, great organisations. But in addition to that, you've decided to divert a further £500,000, mainly from the proceeds of crime, away from frontline policing, and also planning to give them out as grants. This is much needed money that equates to 10 or more pairs of boots on the ground. Money and boots on the ground that the public are crying out for. So do you agree that every penny that can be spent should be spent on getting frontline officers back on the streets? Question 2, technology and improvements are desperately needed. 101 is not working, needs a major overhaul. Online services are great, but not everyone is able to easily access them. Tonight, Sarah Pitt, I'm sorry, I can't remember what rank she is. She's having to use personal Zoom to engage with the public. No, that can't be right. All during pandemic, neighbouring police forces have managed to engage with the public with no problem. I'm sorry, but Northumbria Police have been woefully lacking in this. And some people might not think it's a priority, but I think they should have been managed to engage with them all through it. My second question is, do you acknowledge that people are now using private security firms because they've got in this area, because they've got so little faith in the police force? Surely that's not, and sorry, this is the final question. What do you plan to do to restore faith and, more importantly, drive improvement in policing for our communities? Thank you.
So on your question about the funding, 2.7 million is the grants that go to victims and alike through statutory. Is a formula which some of which has to be spent directly with communities, which is what I've done, and I've topped that fund up to make sure that it's directly in the hands of communities, taking money from criminals and giving it to communities. It isn't money that we are able to divert to increase to increase officers on the street or to spend directly on frontline policing. Again, that's not within our gift to make that decision. On your point on technology, I actually completely agree with you on some points. So technology in Northumbria Police needs to be improved. There is a major technology improvement programme underway so that all of the systems are overhauled. 101, I think, is at times under an awful lot of pressure. I don't think it's currently being used in the way that it was initially conceived. So previously 101 was a partnership between local authorities and other agencies, as well as the police, to answer questions out of hours that weren't 999 calls. Now it's only police who answer those calls, and they are often inundated. But the performance on 101 actually is improving. So the amount of time people are waiting on 101 is improving. But one of the things I'd really like to see, and I'd really like to work on, is that I think that we need a different solution to antisocial behaviour. I think we need to look at the way that antisocial behaviour is reported to both the councils and to the police to try and lift some of the pressure on that. You are preaching to the converted about the police not being able to use Zoom. I think both of us, myself and Sarah, would agree that it seems strange in this era, but my understanding is that's actually a security issue rather than a technology capability. Your question about security forces, I don't know what you, I genuinely don't know what you're talking about. And your last question, can you repeat that last question for me? Because I've written everything down apart from that.
Yes, of course. The security force that is in Hetton, they now have a private security firm that people can hire to basically look after the area. They pay so much a month, and I think that's absolutely shocking that the people of Hetton have to consider that.
Right, was that the question?
No, the most important question, what do you plan to do to restore faith and, more importantly, drive improvement in policing for our community?
So as I said, I don't know anything about this security firm. Obviously, security firm wouldn't have the same powers as police, and absolutely should not be legally acting as police. And so, of whatever people are paying for or being asked to pay for, definitely isn't a replacement for policing. And I think that's really important to say, and it's not something that I would ever encourage. But I think in terms of faith in the police, we have got we have got the highest level of public confidence in the police in this region, and we are continually trying to speak to people to understand what are the issues and to improve things. And that is the entire purpose of the police and crime plan consultation, the new police and crime plan, the fact that we want to be talking to people constantly rather than just coming back and consulting once every 4 years, so that we are putting people's views directly to the police and making changes accordingly. And I believe that we see that response. And I don't think everybody is perfect all the time. I don't think we can have everything perfect all the time. Funding is still a massive issue, regardless of whether it's a little bit better than it was. We're still not funded to the level we were in 2010. We still don't have the numbers of police officers and police staff that we had in 2010. It'll be a long time before we get there if we do. And so we also need to manage expectations and work with people to find solutions to prevent crime, rather than always just expecting the police to pick up the pieces. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Geddes?
Chair, sorry, it's just Sarah Pitt again. Just to, is it all right just to come in on just on a...
sorry, yes, I'm looking around the screen. Sorry, that's why I was saying.
No, sorry. It's just really to come in on a point that the Commissioner made. As I think everybody on this call will know, there's multiple platforms that can be utilised to communicate, and not more so through the pandemic. We've found we've got Teams, we've got WebEx, we've got Zoom, and just as the Commissioner said, due to the fact of a lot of the security that is on the police systems, Zoom is not one of those supported computer systems. So it's not anything to do with technology. It's around the security of Zoom that is picked up on a police perspective. But just as the Commissioner said, there is a massive programme ongoing in Northumbria Police around ultimately technology and how we actually improve that within the force, and not only around communication, but how we actually share information between varying services as well. So just to add to that point of the Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Geddes now.
Yeah, good evening, Police and Crime Commissioner and Chief Superintendent Sarah Pitt. I think, and if somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, it was a couple of years ago when we had a major meeting with, and I think it was Superintendent Renison at the time. And I recall that 100 people turned up at that. In fact, we had to take it in the Bob Paisley Lounge in the Hetton Centre. At the end of that meeting, some people got really frustrated and walked out. And sadly, and I'm not hating off the police, this is exactly the same. We are getting very few positives and a lot of reasons why something can't be done. I want to just go back to a couple of basic things. The youth disorder in Hetton hasn't gone away. And many months ago, most councillors on this Zoom meeting said that the youths in Hetton would move from the centre of Hetton up into the country park. Now, if anybody does not go up the country park, I'll tell you what's going on. There are gangs of youths up there setting fire to trees. they are sniffing grey coffee. I don't know what they are. They're like little bottle things. There's broken glass and heavy alcohol use up there. You know, that's one thing I want to say. The second thing is, can Sarah actually confirm? You know, you're talking about off-road bikes, but as a person who drove through Hetton tonight, I saw two youths on a motor scooter riding up the path in the centre of Hetton. They are doing it now with impunity. With impunity, and I'm sure that many people on this meeting tonight will confirm that. You know, equally, it's been said by Sarah and Kim that there is a no pursuit policy. Well, last summer, and I'm a motorcyclist, I followed 5 off-road bikes through Hetton to Horden. We got onto the South Hetton Road where the gardening centre is, and there was a trials bike by Durham Constabulary pulled one of the guys over on a bike. Now, I've seen also on the TV, and I'm sure many other people have, where the police are now going head to head with these youths on unlicensed motor scooters, because there's a difference between a motor scooter and a motorbike, you know. So I don't understand that part, because it's regularly on the TV, you know, this non-pursuit. Well, I've seen it myself. And the last point would be, and maybe Sarah can point me in the right direction, because I had some information off a guy that works in the legal profession to say the organised crime group have got major issues in Hortonley Spring. I mean, you may not want to or be able to comment, but I know 2 families down there that are at loggerheads. And you know, that I think other people have mentioned that there's been some serious crimes. Now, Kim and Sarah, I'll say this to you. The guy that runs Tri-Security Services is ex-military, as is his son-in-law. He had a knife pulled on him this year. He had a knife pulled on him. The Hermes driver was pulled out of his car and run over. There's a guy was pulled out, and I don't know whether it's the same guy that Councillor Hopper's talking about, pulled out of his car just where the squash tech used to be, or the 4-lane ends where the new inn is. And that was a very, very serious assault. You know, so, and this for the people with the drugs, well, you know, it's common knowledge who's running drugs in this area. And it's common knowledge which venues you can go to. I mean, it's not even 9 months when there was a car run into a house in Station Road of a drug dealer. A car actually run into the house. So, you know, I don't understand where the crime's going down, because believe you me, if you were living in Hetton or Easington Lane in Horton, that's just not the case. And the last point, if you don't mind me saying this, and this is frustrating, because I was in the police station at Horton, and there was a mother come in with a teenage son. The teenage son had been beat up. Now, everybody would assume you can go into the police station. My view is that the police station in Horton Springs only open 10 o'clock to 2, I think it is. Now, this mother and her son, and he was in a mess, went to the police station, because obviously the police station should have policemen in or policewomen in. To my horror, and I've mentioned this in the council meeting before, the lady behind the counter, I'm not sure if it's civilian or police or whatever it is, this woman and her son were told to go outside of the police station, pick the yellow phone off the wall and dial 101. I mean, is it me that's been, you know, rather critical here of these things? Because I haven't heard anything tonight that is either positive or heartening. I really haven't. You know, and I thought the role of the police was actually to protect people. And, you know, I understand that the courts are too soft, and I don't know whether you can influence that. came, you know, it's beyond my understanding. And I do believe that it's frustrating for the police guys that, you know, they get people and they get let off. But, you know, the general conversation from you tonight is that things are improvement. I can tell you now, that's not the consensus around Hetton and around the people that we speak to, mate. You know, so, and yes, there's a funding issue, but grassroots, people are scared. People will not report because there's reprisals. And that's really not, you know, that's not on, is it really? You know, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor, Sarah wants to come back on.
No, just to answer some of the questions, really, Councillor Geddes, if that's possible, Chair.
Yeah, that's fine.
Brilliant. Obviously, I am cited and fully cited on the meeting that you allude to that was attended by Chief Inspector Sam Renison, and it was as a result of a tragic incident which occurred, which I'm not going to go into the details of because I'm sure everybody on this call is aware of what that relates to. I'm in no way saying that serious crime doesn't occur in Hetton as it does across the whole of Northumbria and across the whole of the country, but we are tackling that local criminality. And I do know some of the incidents that you allude to and have talked around. I don't know them all. I don't know the one around the security officer and the knife, and I would have to look into whether they were reported to the police for us to actually investigate them. And I just go back to the point the Commissioner made, is that if we don't know about these incidents, then we really struggle to bring people to justice with regard to them. What I will point out, the ongoing dispute, as you call it, that is not organised crime. That is a dispute between two families that live in the area. And again, we do have some ongoing work and have done for a period of time with regard to prevention of that ongoing feud with regard to those two families that live in that area. And with regard to the drugs, what I will say is if it is common knowledge, again, I'll speak to you after this call to find out what that information is, so we can look into that information. We look into the intelligence to be able to tackle it head on in terms of making that difference within your community. That's something that, you know, I am committed to making the area as best as I possibly can to tackle people who are causing disorder, antisocial behaviour. What I will say with regard to pursuing or stopping vehicles, officers can stop motorbikes, and I'm sure that's probably what you've seen on the TV. I have not personally seen, and I would again have further discussions with regard to this, but I would imagine that there is nowhere in the country that would pursue a motorbike unless it was involved in serious criminality. There is, officers can stop and speak to people on motorbikes, which might have been what you saw with that off-road motorbike, that of probably the Durham officers, but they will not pursue, and we have discussions with Durham in relation to what they can and can't do as a result of the joint operations that we have. But I do want to make a difference in Hetton. I do want to make a difference across the whole of Sunderland and South Tyneside, working with partners to tackle disorder and crime. But I need your support to be able to do that, and the community support.
I would back that. I think that we do need the support of local town councillors. If you have intelligence, pass it to the police. And then, you know, when people see action, they may be more encouraged to report, because reporting, we know that it is an issue in some communities. We know that we need to encourage it. And so please encourage people to do it. And if they won't be encouraged, then please, you know, do it yourself, talk to the police. They're there. Sarah's saying she's committed to this, and absolutely I'm committed to this. Regards to positivity, I'm hoping that not all of what I've said hasn't come across, but you know, I've said to you, we are looking at some new and innovative ways to tackle antisocial behaviour. One of the things in off-road bikes I'd like to see it made a legal requirement for them to have trackers. I think that would be really helpful. That's something that we have to take to government, and I'm working with MPs and with other police and crime commissioners to do that, because it's important. As I've said, they're looking at drones, and I would absolutely back that plan for the police to look at drones, because they are a massive problem, not just in your area, but in other parts of Northumbria, not just in Northumbria, but nationally. And some serious action needs to be taken on that. And some of that can be done through local policing, but actually some of that needs to be done through legislation. On your point as well about, and as I said, you know, in other terms of positivity, we are putting more money into youth services, preventative services, some of those things that improve things for people, as well as supporting the council with some of that designing out crime work. And we, you know, I think going back to the Safer Streets thing, this is actually the second round of the Safer Streets. We bid last time and we didn't get it. And so you know, I want that money in Northumbria in the right places, and that's part of the approach. And finally, I think, you know, this is about working together. It isn't just about, you know, saying to the police, work harder, work faster, do more. It has to be about that consistent communication between the police and the community, and making sure that there's good quality neighbourhood policing. And on the organised crime thing, you know, I've laid it out very clearly in the police and crime plan. We will back the police to investigate and to take action on organised crime. We will make sure that they've got the resources. We will increase investigative capacity to make sure that is happening. You asked about sentencing and the justice system. No, frankly, nobody can influence that. We've got an independent judiciary, and that's the law. And we work with them. So we speak to the judiciary, we speak to this criminal justice system. We have a local criminal justice board, and some of that's about trying to make things move quicker. You know, we've got huge backlogs in the courts because of COVID. And we need to make things move quicker. We need to look at some solutions for making sure that certain cases are heard more quickly, particularly domestic abuse or sexual violence cases. But nobody can influence the judiciary, and that's obviously a pillar of the criminal justice system.
Can I just come back, Madam Mayor, just to...
Yeah, quickly, yeah.
Sarah, the knife incident was reported. And I don't know what the follow-up was, but I will thank you both for being candid. You know, nobody's disagreeing that there's been massive cuts. There was 20,000 by Theresa May cut, you know, but we are where we are, and I think people have an expectation that they want to be safe on our streets. And at the moment, there's a fear factor where, and I mean, if Nick Jorgen's there, he'll tell you that both myself and Councillor Waterson went in to sit down and give him information on various things which he acted on. Haven't got a problem with that. But the first thing any resident does that phones me or any councillor on this meeting tonight, they will say, don't mention my name because I'm terrified. I'll get my windows put out. So from that point of view, I would doubt if there's a councillor on here tonight that hasn't spoken to the police about crime. You know, everybody does it. It's what we are elected to do. But I want to thank you for your time, both of you. Thanks very much.
Got 4 people waiting: Councillor Waterson, then Billy, then Charlie, then Councillor Heron. Councillor Coulson later.
Thank you, Chair. And I would like to thank both of the ladies for their coming tonight. And can I first say that no one doubts your commitment to your post at all. However, I'm going to bring it back to basics here, and we are on the receiving end of people's complaints, unhappiness, and that's why I'm going to bring it back and say that because you've heard people telling you that this new private security company has taken off in Hetton. I think that shows that there's very little, or the confidence level in the police has dropped massively when people start to resort to using a private security firm. The other issue that I want to bring up, and again, as I say, it's back to basics here, is the 101 number. I'm constantly told by residents that the 101 number is useless. The time waits are too long and they end up hanging up. There's no follow-up. They're not even getting back to residents. basically residents are now not bothering to report crime and criminality. And, you know, this shows that antisocial behaviour, well, it isn't dropping. It's just not being reported because people are fed up. They're fed up with not getting any replies and any action taken. That's coming from the streets. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Sorry, Billy?
Hello, can you hear me? Am I on?
Yes.
I'm joining you from the joys of Liverpool. The crime down here is horrendous. I just want to change the tone ever so slightly. Obviously, I'm not a councillor, so as you can imagine, all the councillors get it in the neck from all the residents, and they only have kind of bad stories to report because we don't actually hear about the good. So I would just like to take this opportunity while the British police are absolutely getting hammered in the press with everything that's gone down on in London. It's just a message as a resident myself to Sarah to pass to the officers that you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, but we do appreciate everything you do. So thank you. I just want to tell everyone about a little story that happened to my family in relation to crime about 2.5 years ago. And it was A Shift Washington that responded. And basically, my shed got broken into. My wife was heavily pregnant. It's actually what brought the twins on. And the shed had got broken into. The bike got stolen. We actually rang 999, and thankfully enough, we had officers in the area, and the bike was returned within the hour. And some good crime prevention tips given from the officers. So a big thank you to A Shift there at Washington. I was surprised that they were responding from Washington when we have a police station in Horton. But just a suggestion, in my job, I drive for a living, and everywhere I go in the country, I see ample amounts of traffic police. Now, I know specifically their role is the highways and all the rest of it, but we do have ANPR, which covers most of the major network right now. So just a suggestion, when people see a traffic car in our villages, I'm not talking about the little pandas, the little Corsas and what have you, the big BMWs, that flies around Facebook at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Oh, there's a traffic car at the lane, there's a traffic car in Hetton. And what maybe's a suggestion, before some of these traffic cars, if they're not responding and they're just going out to sit in a lay-by on the motor, which they do patrol, maybe it would be a real good idea to get some of these big traffic cars or any police car for that matter. Let's get them in the back streets. Let's that physical presence gives a reassurance. You don't know what you're going to stumble across, and I think that's what's lacking. I can't remember seeing a police car drive past my house. I really can't, and I've lived there 8 years. I've seen 2 community support officers, but they seem to come out in the daylight, during the day, and I know a lot of them are volunteers. Maybe get them at some of the hotspot times. I'm sure there's a trend on a lot of the antisocial behaviour and whatever, but like I say, just a couple of good points, and we do appreciate everything that you do. And sorry to enlighten the tone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair, can I just come in there? Just a few. Billy, thank you very much for the kind comments with regard to the officers that responded. What I will say is that we do have a response policing team that cover the whole of Sunderland and South Tyneside. So really the borderless, they go wherever they're sent. So I'm really pleased that they've responded so quickly to get your bike back, and congratulations on your twins as well. So I'm glad they could bring them along. What I will say is we do have traffic officers that work out of Horton Police Station, and also our dog section work out of there as well. Each traffic car and dog section car, and also our armed response vehicles, all have ANPR within the cars. So they all have ANPR working within them. And because they do work out of Horton, they do spend quite a bit of time up in Hetton, Horton, Easington Lane in terms of their regular patrols. Clearly, within it, we do have hotspot areas, as you've just alluded to, and we do try to designate resource to areas that we know have got that high crime rate, high ASB at the particular times. But sometimes the call and demand for service does draw them away, depending on what's happening at that time. But we do try to target our patrols in areas. Sorry to say that you haven't had a police car drive past your house, because we do try to get as many officers and staff, including our PCSOs, out and about in the communities. And what we're hopefully going to be getting very soon is some e-bikes, so that they get round a lot quicker as well, and target some of those areas that aren't easily accessible via cars, because we want to see them on foot and be able to be as accessible but as quick as we can to get some of the calls for service. If I could just go back to Councillor Waterston's point, just regarding 101, what I will say is that the Commissioner mentioned it, performance with regard to 101 has improved over a period of time. And also the drop rate. What that means is the calls that don't get answered is also fallen. It's not a perfect system in any way, shape or form, and I'm not going to sit here and say it is, but it is improving in terms of those calls. What I will also say is that the community can also report incidents electronically that will be picked up, because every incident that comes into the police is recorded. It is be given a unique reference number, and there is a response to that. So all I would say with regard to it is just bear with the system that we do have. I would just encourage people to keep reporting the incidents, either through the phone or through our other electronic means, and then we'll see whether we can actually make that improvement from the information that we do have. Thank you.
Just come in and just say, Billy, I'm really glad that you got a positive response, and thank you for sharing that. I'm jealous that you get to travel even if the Northwest isn't anywhere near as the Northeast, and congratulations on your twins. I think Sarah answered the rest of your question. And Councillor Waterston, one of the things that, and Sarah will shoot me looks for this, but one of the things certainly that we've agreed for the police and crime panel is that they can come when COVID permits, to the control centre and see how it all works, how it's all monitoring, and understand the way that the calls are handled. And I'm sure that something could be arranged if you think that would be useful to see. Thank you.
Okay, Charlie, then I've got Councillor Heron, Councillor Coulson, and that should be, I mean, we're now 20 to 9. I don't want to take up all night with it. Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Sarah and Kim, for sitting through the UKIP election rally. It's interesting to note that 5 of the contributors for them are standing for election.
Oh, Charlie, the activist, the bully.
Okay, just let the gentleman speak, please, Councillor Hopper. I know, just let him speak.
He's not going to bully anybody. You've got a mute on your mic there, mind if he starts. Everybody's kept it non-political.
No, come on, right, okay.
Don't say, come on, Madam Mayor, it's him that's starting.
Okay, Charlie, yeah. If we can just keep it quiet, keep it like I said at the beginning. If we can polite and courteous, please.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'll be brief. I'll invite Sarah to make contact regarding the bullying and intimidation of shopkeepers in Hetton and the bullying and intimidation of councillors on Hetton Town Council. Hetton Town Council has had 10 councillors, all Labour councillors, bullied from there. Bullied
Can
and
I
intimidated.
stop you there, please, Charlie? I mean, no, this is not the part to do this. So can we move on, please?
Well, I would just suggest while the command is there, is the place to do it.
Oh, I mean, we can move on, please, Councillor Heron. Councillor Heron?
Right. Am I on there now?
Yes.
Right. Thank you. Madam Mayor, it's the holistic side of policing is not just the police force. It is right across the whole spectrum of the social justice. It's about the schools. It's about social services. it's about street lighting. It's about security on the streets. It isn't just the police that do that. And quite rightly said, and yes, Councillor Hopper, I was as angry as you when I first came on the council in 1991, when we had 10 years of Tory austerity cuts, the same as what we've had now. And the streets were a little bit worse. But having said that, we dealt with them, but it took a massive amount of money in order to turn the 2 local estates around that were suffering really badly. Now, one of them was the Causey side, and one of them was an estate on Horton that I dealt with. It took 10 years in order to bring those estates back to neutrality. And that came in through SRB budgets. And it was all social services, the health, the schools, the social housing, the highways. Everybody had to come in and sort the problems out. And we're going to have to do that again. It needs a start. It needs that kick up the backside to get it done. We don't want riots on the street like we had in Toxteth at the time that saw that work coming through. That's where we need to be getting at government, right at the heart of government. And it was the Conservative governments that brought in the social regeneration budget. It needs to happen again. And I'm just as angry as everybody on here because I get them stories every day. But the police need the help. But we need the public confidence in the police to be able to go ahead and do that, for them to be able to contact the police. Constantly sitting here barging away at the police when there's not enough officers to deal with the day-to-day business, as well as the high stuff what they're doing. And I'm really pleased that the crime commissioner has come, as well as the area commander from the police force. When I first got on the council, I could only speak to an inspector if I went through Ponteland. I had to go to Ponteland to get to speak to an inspector about policing on the racecourse estate. It was disgraceful. We've got these people here, and I'm over the moon that everybody's coming forward. But we need to talk to our people to get them to ring the police themselves. 101, it's continually getting misused. I've only had to use it twice, but both times I picked the phone up after about 3 rings, on both occasions. We need to pull together to get these estates back to normal, back to being healthy, back to being safe. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Coulson, I believe you wanted to speak before we finish. Yeah, Councillor Coulson.
Oh, thanks for coming, both of you. The answer to the remedy is we've got to have a police station in Hetton. Now, Hetton, compared with Durham has 4 police stations within 4 miles. Sherburn Road ends, a police office with a police car there all the time, so as soon as somebody in, the main police station beside the 3 tons, the area headquarters at Akeley Heads, and another police office up at Newton Hall or Pitty Mill. Hetton has nothing. Hazel Lane has nothing. So that's the answer to the question. The second point is, I think you can answer this question. How much time is spent on investigating non-crime? I'm not saying Northumbria is the top of the list, but it certainly goes on. That's trolling the internet to see if anybody has some view that doesn't fit the left-wing woke agenda. I don't know whether it's done by police staff or auxiliary staff or anybody. So is there can you tell us how many hours are spent investigating non-crime?
Investigating what, sorry?
Non-crime. That's trolling the internet to see if somebody's saying something that doesn't fit the left-wing agenda and come to the house and ask them why they're thinking like that. It does happen in this area.
Okay. I don't know how much time is spent investigating online crime or threats and harassment online. And I'm not sure that we'd be able to get that information. But I think that those who are victims of it would not always agree that it is not a crime, because actually sometimes those things are incredibly, well, are terrifying, frankly. And just out of interest, what do you think a police station in Hetton would do for you?
Well, it had reassurance. People could pop in, meet the local policeman who was in charge of it, and you get a lot of info back. You get the names and the addresses of the people that's doing things wrong.
Right, because I think that.
Remember, I remember, I'm getting on a bit, but I remember the biggest building in Hetton was a police station. And then at the Falling Ends estate in Clearpath, they had a police office with a cell. That all went about 25 years ago.
I think there's two things really. I think first of all, we've lost huge numbers of police stations since austerity, in the same way as we've lost police officers. And so you have to consider the resources, but also just the fact that the changing nature of policing, and that most people, the vast majority of people, and I'm talking like 99.9% of people, don't go to a front office to report a crime. You know, they'd rather see the police in their communities, and police need to be there solving crime. And an extra community police station in Hetton probably wouldn't do that. And I think it's important to be honest about that. I think on the on Councillor Heron's point, I agree. I think that it is a community effort. It has to be about joined up working between the council and the police and the housing services, social services. We do need to see more regeneration in our areas. We need to see a positive recovery from the recession that we're in now, because that obviously will be will cause, you know, that obviously is causing problems for a lot of people. It's difficult for people, and we need to come together to tackle antisocial behaviour by diverting young people, giving them different options, and the cost of that is high, but actually the cost at dealing with it at the other end is higher, and of course it ruins lives. And so I completely agree with that, and it's something that I lobby government about all the time, because it is about that consistent preventative approach, having consistent funding in our areas to support people where they live. So yeah, I agree with that. Sarah, do you have anything you want to add?
Do you know, can you picture Horton Police Station? It's a massive building, and as far as I know, it just handles the dog. It's just occupied by the dog handlers. Can you give any assurance that Horton Police Station is going to stay open?
I don't. There's no plans to close Horton Police Station or any other police.
Well, it's a heck of a sized building and it's underused. So
at the moment,
I do, it will be sort of a block of flats or something in the near future.
Okay, well, that isn't in the plan. That's not something that anybody's looking at the moment, and it's not something that anyone would have any intention of doing. But I think that the honest truth is that where we're at now is, if you know, if you said to me a police station in Hetton, then I'm going to say to you, okay, well, how many police officers do you want me to take away to do that? Because that's the choice. The choice is more police officers on the streets, better kit, better joined up working, better neighbourhood policing, or more buildings. And actually, modern policing doesn't require buildings in the same way anymore.
And that's the whole problem. That is the whole problem. And then when we do get a local policeman or a community officer, he just gets used to the area, gets used to people, and then the change, he goes somewhere else, he goes to Martha somewhere. If we had somebody regular all the time in the area, that would be a benefit.
Can I just come in there? Just regarding Horton, to see what the Commissioner talked about. Yeah, there are no plans to remove Horton Police Station. And what I will say is that it's not just our dog section that work out of Horton. The officers who work out of there are our motor patrol section that work as the whole of the south of the force, which includes Gateshead, South Tyneside and Sunderland. We also have working out of there our collision investigation unit, and you also have the neighbourhood policing team that are teams that are based within Horton. What I will say is the response policing team that covers Horton is based out of Southwick. However, the officers who patrol Horton and Hetton throughout the course of their 12-hour shift actually go back to Horton and Hetton in terms of refreshments and things along those lines, rather than coming back all the way to Southwick. And just in relation to what the Commissioner talked around buildings, and it was mentioned before around by Councillor Hopper, I think it was, with regard to use of technology. And I think the main thing is around effectively utilising technology better to make us more efficient and effective, so that we haven't got to keep coming around the buildings, so that we can do our work and continued updates and things along those lines that are done in cars or in people's houses, so that we don't have to keep coming back into police stations. And therefore we're out in the communities, we're out there being visible. I
think she's froze. We've definitely lost her.
Yes, Chair, and audio and visual gone.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think that was the last of the people that I've got to speak. I don't know whether there's anyone else before we, I mean, we allotted an hour. We've actually done about an hour and a half, which we're grateful for from both the Commissioner and the police. I can't see anybody else on the screen wishing to speak. No, that's fine. Okay, so can I say thank you to the Police and Crime Commissioner, and also the police themselves for attending tonight, and thank you very much. And I think we've answered, or you've answered most of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'll
thank you.
You all again soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, can we move on? Item 4 is public participation. Do we need the time for public? Have anybody got any from the public that wishes to speak?
Can I quickly have a word?
Yes, Lindsay.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, obviously, thank you for the meeting. I'm quite disappointed, actually, that people have brought the politics into the whole situation, because at the end of the day, this is about Hetton Town Council. This is about our community. And I'm really, really disappointed that people have had a political view on it, because all we want is the best in this area.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Members of the public?
Just having a quick round the screen.
I'm going to say I can't see anybody, but that's not guaranteed because my eyes are not perfect. No, doesn't look like it.
No, it looks clear to me.
Looks clear. Yeah. Thank you to the public. Okay, move on. Item 5. It's the minutes.
It's only 5 sets to consider.
Only 5.
Chairman, the first set of minutes are those of the Hetton Town Council meeting held on the 15th of February. I am able to screen share all of the minutes if you'd like me to. I'll take your steer on it.
Madam Mayor, may I propose that we don't share them, as they've all been circulated, and I'm sure all the councillors have read them with eager anticipation.
Yeah.
Hope so, the amount of effort I put into them.
Agree with that.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so the first one, Town Council meeting on the 15th of February.
Madam Mayor, if nobody has any suggestions for amendments, I'd like to propose that these are adopted.
I'll second that.
Is that approved?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next one is Planning and Development Committee of the 3rd of March.
Again, Madam Mayor, if nobody wishes to make any amendments or suggestions, I'd like to propose that these are adopted.
Councillor Dodds is trying to get in.
Yeah, sorry, I've just seen her hand raised.
The Dodds?
Yeah, sorry. Chair, I just want to ask a question. Are they in item 4, are the Town Council recommending, planning recommend Town Council that we object to the new build at Hetton Primary?
Madam Mayor,
My
think that
recollection was that it was not objecting to the new build, but just raising a number of concerns.
That's the way, to me, that's the way it reads, that we're submitting an objection to the new build. I think it needs to be worded slightly clearer.
Madam Mayor, I suggest that the council has a very valid point. Maybe we should consider amending it to say that the council has no objections, to make it clear that the council has no objections to the building of a new primary school. In fact, we welcome it, but with this objection, we think there is no requirement for, and then the points that are already being listed there. And I think that would add clarity. If Councillor Dodds would agree with me.
Yeah, what I was thinking was, we do not wish to object to the application. However, the absence of an objection is subject to the following conditions.
No, because there are objections to part of the planning, Madam Chair. I think that's the whole point. We don't object to the building, but think we object to parts of it and highlight certain failings as we saw it.
I'm sure some of these have been addressed now, but I just feel that the way it's worded that we object to the whole build, not just to the sections listed below.
Madam Mayor, may I propose formally then that we amend it to say the Hetton Town Council does not object to the building of the primary school, and indeed it welcomes it, but it does object to the following. It has objections and
subject to the following objections.
Concerns with regard to the following. Sorry, Madam Mayor, I think I interrupted Councillor Rowan, was waving like crazy. I'm sorry.
She's waving like mad. Yeah.
Yeah. May I speak, Madam Mayor?
Yes, fine.
Well, in my mind, that sounds perfectly clear. We recommend submit an objection on the following grounds. And they're the grounds we're objecting on. And if we're not saying we're not objecting, it just seems like a double negative to say we're not objecting, but we're going to object on the following grounds.
But then we're saying we're objecting to this building of the school.
Subject to these conditions.
Yeah. I don't. Is the town council in a position to start putting conditions onto a planning application? I don't think that's within our remit.
I just feel like by objecting and not wanting the school being built, we're just holding
the conditions.
Up.
It's subject to the conditions.
That's not the way it reads.
That's the way it reads to me. Subject on an objection unless we say on the following points of the application. That might be we submit an objection on the following points of the application.
That would be better.
If Councillor Rowan's proposing that, I'll second it.
Yeah, Town Clerk wishes to come in.
Yeah, just in terms of a form of wording there, my notes that I've written here are committee resolved to recommend the Town Council submit their concerns on the following aspects.
That's not what's on there.
I know it's not, but
that's what he's proposing.
Form of words.
Yeah.
Town Council submit concerns on the following aspects.
Yes, I'm happy with that.
We've got it. Okay, proposal by Councillor Elbin that we accept that the amendments and seconded by Councillor Rome.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Somebody else can. Second it. Yeah.
I seconded. Councillor Hopper.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Hopper.
So can I just confirm, is that along the lines of the wording I've suggested?
Madam Mayor, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the action is, unless there are any other comments on those draft minutes, that the draft minutes are approved, subject to the alteration of item 4 to read, committee resolved to recommend the town council submit concerns on the following aspects.
Yeah.
I've got it.
I'm happy, Madam Mayor, with that proposal.
Dodds? Oh, no.
Or that
Yeah.
I'll support that proposal. I'll propose it, whatever. Just if we can move on, if someone wants to
Fine, yeah.
second it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll second it for you.
Right,
Thank you,
thanks.
Councillor Geddes.
Yeah.
Any dissent? Champion. Okay, item 5C. This is the extraordinary meeting of the town council on the 4th of March.
Madam Mayor, again, I'd like to suggest that unless anybody wants to make any amendments to the wording or any suggestions, that we I propose these minutes be adopted.
That's Councillor Coulson seconding.
Yes, yeah.
Any views? Any dissent? Smashing, thank you. Just bear with me a moment, just pinged here. Councillor Thornton's rejoined us.
Yeah.
Right, where was I? Next one is D, Finance and Resources Committee of the 10th of March.
Yeah, Councillor Elvin.
Yes, again, Madam Mayor, I'd like to propose that unless anybody has any objections or wishes to make any amendments, that these minutes are adopted.
Yeah, that was
Councillor
seconded by
Waterson's
Councillor
going to do
Waters.
it. Yeah.
We okay with that?
Yeah.
I'm looking around my screen here. Okay, thank you. And the final set of minutes. This is management and policy on Wednesday the 10th. I do apologise for the lateness in circulation.
Madam Mayor, sake
Yes,
of
Councillor
expediency, I'd like to propose that these minutes are adopted, but at the same time drawing everybody's attention to item 9 and the feeling that most of the members of the committee felt about the inappropriateness and use of language in the new campaign materials for the anti-litter campaign, which we asked for but weren't consulted on. But that's just a personal comment. But I'd like to propose these minutes are adopted.
Councillor Watterson
Yeah.
seconded. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. 4 out of 5 isn't bad. Thank you. Next item. This is reports from members, ward matters.
Councillor Watterson.
Yes, I've been approached today and actually asked to go around regarding some waste, building waste. Residents were very upset. It's the position is the old pavilion works, and it's directly behind the old pavilion works. That's up Richard Street and across from the Methodist Chapel. I couldn't believe it when I went round the back. Whatever the people who've renovated the building have done inside, all of the internal brickwork, gas bottles, you name it, it's all there. It's been piled in the back, like sort of a backyard, which had a retaining brick wall. The brick wall has collapsed under the pressure of all of the, all the rubbish and building materials. There's part of the wall is still there, but it's precarious. It looks as if it's ready to collapse. While I was there and I took photographs, some of the school children came back up the back lane past the wall. It's really, really dangerous. And I would ask, could we have the enforcement officer out to look at this straight away, because there needs to be something done. there's also concerns not only about that. I mean, if you've seen, I think I've passed the photographs of it to the clerk tonight because it really is urgent that something's done about it. The building itself was under scrutiny by the police at the back end of last year when a large marijuana, I don't know what you call it, farm inside of one of these units was found. I've been told by the residents, and I have in fact seen it myself today, the end unit that was used for the marijuana stash or plants was filled from the top, from the floor to the roof, with clothing bags filled with clothing. They don't know, the residents don't know whether the property is being used as a business. They're concerned about fire hazards, and if there's any, fire prevention inside the building. They're very concerned about what's going on. There was at least 5 huge wagons parked outside, stopping any access behind the avenue. You couldn't get it in or out. So the residents are really concerned around the area. So I would like to see something going off to the enforcement officer as soon as possible, please.
Councillor Rome, did you want to
Thank
come
you.
in there, or are you just not? No?
Oh, I was fiddling.
Oh, I'm saying nothing, right, okay. Is there anyone else? Any other members? Councillor Geddes, you'd want to?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of points. This one's probably for Graham to see if he can actually see any action on it. But there's a lad, a gardening guy in Hetton that contacted me about a house in Estdale Street where he's actually killed 28 rats. You know, the young lady in that property is actually beside herself with I don't know, anger, worry, whatever it is. So I'll give you the details of that, Graham, tomorrow. And the second point, it just follows on from the conversation we've had with the Police and Crime Commissioner and Superintendent Pitt, and that is Tri-Security have paid for and have out, I think it's 4 mobile cameras. And I don't know if our city councillors can help or if we can help as a council, or if this company could go to the Coalfields Area Committee. But you know, they're trying to do something, and I know, you know, people's view is, well, we shouldn't need them, but the reality is we do. So I don't know if anybody's got any comments on that, on if we can help, whether we should help, and where we can go to get this guy some help. Thank you.
Councillor Coulson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just 2 points. A large amount of rubbish has been dumped at the rear of East Drayton School Field, adjacent to the A690 and opposite to the Highfield Hotel. They're throwing it over the fence into the school field on the A690 opposite the Highfield Hotel. Now, the next point, Graham can take 5 minutes because this is before he took office. 2014, before they built the Greenbrook estate at East Drayton, it was pointed out that there was an underground stream, a natural stream running through the estate. This was pointed out at the planning stage by a professional group, also by numerous residents that wrote in, and this also fed historic water troughs. As the building progressed, nothing, they just left this, nothing was happening. And I foresaw this could present a problem in future. So at least in 3 council meetings, I wanted this recorded because I knew something was going to come of it. 3 council meetings, I did bring this up under the clerk, John Price. He forwarded it to Sunderland Council. And I did ask the town and the head of the town and planning planning officer to come out, was it Tony Sandbridge or something like that, to visit the site. Nothing was done. They allowed the building firm, Avant Homes, to put a 20-ton load of soil on top of a well. Now, Laurel and Hardy wouldn't do this. A 7-year-old kid from Cocktail Infants would realise this wasn't right. Now, numerous people objected to this. Ian Kitchen, who was a former site foreman with the electric board, mentioned it to his opposite number, promised to do something, nothing was done. Now, this water runs even in drought times, even when in the summer, there's water running all the time. And actually, when there's heavy rain, it gets heavier. Now, the last period of heavy rain, the water sort of swelled up and run out from somebody's back garden onto a bridle path. Remember the word bridle. This path is about 8 foot wide, and you cannot avoid it because it's banked up on either side. And then it froze. When she had 100 yards like an ice rink. One local resident had to put on social media to warn people that there was ice under the snow, a sheet of ice. And of course, it's only a mile from the riding school, so they were using it as well. Now, where was the building inspector? Why Sunderland Council knew about this? Lots of people informed Sunderland Council about this. No regard whatsoever for the heritage or historic value, and allow a company to bury a well thinking that was going to go away. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, I think Councillor definitely can come on this and tell us the role of the building inspector. He's supposed to, as far as I know, sign things off. So are they building new estates and not having any building inspectors there? I mean, if somebody buys a new house, they're going to get all sorts of problems. But just absolutely disregard from this for this area to allow a well to be buried with water running. It's got to come somewhere. It's got to come out somewhere. So I did make a point in the 2015, 16, 17 to put on record with Hetton Town Council records, because I knew there'd be some comebacks on this, maybe more serious comebacks if it comes up in somebody's house. So I would just like Council Deputy to confirm the role of the non-existent building inspector's duties here. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
If I may, yeah. Well,
yeah.
It goes, like I said, the planners, the building inspectors, obviously, and that would go down to highways as well, I would say. The highways people would have to, and they would have to find out where that water ran to.
Yeah.
And what would usually happen if you wanted to continue the flow of water, you would have built a raft over the top of it, a tunnel. But if that water's still there, that's still running, that will just keep running and erode whatever's been put in, unless there's been a proper waterway put in.
No proper waterway, just buried. That's Sunderland. Well, they didn't do it, but they're responsible for it. This should have been noted at the initial planning stage. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other members? No. Doesn't look like it. No. Councillor Watterson, are you still fiddling, or are you want to speak? You're still fiddling, right? Okay. Okay.
Okay, Councillor Pearson,
Yes.
item 7. This is the item for any Sunderland City councillors who've been invited to the meeting tonight. Just want to move on to item 8.
Yeah.
This is the town clerk's update. There's not a lot to report this evening. The first thing I just want to highlight is that I don't have any update from Sunderland City Council on previous issues raised. And that is entirely down to a delay on my part. So I will try and play catch up for the April meeting and include the items which have been flagged up this evening. A couple of ongoing issues. The first one, the saga of the damaged bench seat outside of the Hetton Centre. The insurance claim has now been made. Since the last meeting, I was able to gather all the component parts of the claim, and I've been able to send that off. And I've asked specifically the insurers if it is okay for me to initiate the removal of the damaged seat, i.e. the removal and disposal. So I'll report back. I always knew this was going to be a long slog, and we're 2 months down the line now. So fingers crossed we can get an early resolution. The next thing to flag up is that at last month's meeting.
Is the plaque still on the site, Graham? Or
no, it's been removed. I have it in safe custody, Councillor Heron.
Right, thank you very much.
Yeah. Sorry, Chairman, I think Councillor Thornton may have raised a hand there.
Sorry.
Is the bench to be replaced if it's to be removed? Is it going to be replaced with a new one?
Yes, Councillor Thornton, just for background, it was damaged by a Tufnell's delivery vehicle at the beginning of January, and it's been damaged irreparably. So there's an insurance claim submitted against Tufnell's insurers to meet the cost, and obviously we'll be able to fund a replacement.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah, members will recall that at the last meeting we had an item on about the digital strategy from Sunderland City Council, and Council agreed that that be deferred to this meeting. I have had some contact with the officer who I'd been liaising with on that topic, and it would appear that at this stage the digital strategy isn't as well developed as we originally thought. If you remember, this was on the back of how we improved liaison with issues raised by the Town Council with Sunderland. It's not at sufficiently an advanced stage. So I hope it's acceptable to members that I've asked for the City Council to come back when they're in a position to apply it on a practical basis to assist us. So it's a little way off at the moment, I'm afraid. The other thing to mention, and this is included in the correspondence report towards the end of the meeting, is about the cessation of the legislation which governs the ability to hold meetings remotely. And there's some correspondence coming which I previously circulated, and the legislation expires on the 6th or the 7th of May. And currently there are ongoing discussions with government through the National Association of Local Councils and others to try and continue the flexibility to have remote meetings. But the official guidance that we've had to date is that town and parish councils, and indeed other councils, should prepare themselves for the resumption of physical meetings from the 6th of May onwards. I've now put an inquiry out to Sunderland City Council to ask if the Hetton Centre is reopening to the public from that date. That's just gone off today, so I haven't had a response, but I will keep members informed. Obviously, if the Hetton Centre is not opened to the public and we are in a position where we need to have a physical meeting, we'll have to find another venue. I'll keep members advised as the discussion develops. That's okay. Do you have other key points from my update? Is there any other queries at all? Silence. Okay, thank you for that. Item 9 is the asset register, which I've circulated. This is not available on screen, so hopefully members will have had the opportunity to have a look at this. And if I can just again give a little bit of background, last year saw the first asset register produced for the Town Council. It is very much work in progress, and it is a requirement of the external audit that is presented to Council in each municipal year for approval. It's an ongoing piece of work for me, and there are a couple of things I just want to highlight which have differed from last year. I've actually found the original invoices for the office furniture, which is in the Town Clerk's office. I hadn't actually come across that last year, and I had to put in what was called a proxy valuation. I've now got the actual valuation, and the document has been updated to reflect that. For those of you who have the document in front of you, I need to delete the comments in the extreme right-hand side, which says proxy valuation, because we now have an actual figure. And the other addition is towards the bottom of the asset register. described as an ion block rocker at £169.99. You're probably thinking, what on earth is it? It appears to be a portable public address system with a microphone, but it includes an iPod dock, which I understand may have been used to provide background music for some of the town council's events. I'm not fully sure if the loudspeaker element of the thing still works. I think it may do, but certainly the iPod dock is now old technology. But we do have this, it's in my office, and I've got the invoice and the instructions to go with it too. Quite how we might be able to utilize it, I don't know.
Okay, Councillor Dodds want to speak, and then Councillor Rome.
Yes, just one question, Chair. Do we not take depreciation into consideration on these?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
We don't apply commercial depreciation techniques. The figure is as we purchase it, and it remains like that in perpetuity unless we decide to dispose of an item.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I sent the town clerk a picture of a chair today, which I noticed wasn't on the asset register. A very beautiful chair that used to be in the council chamber with scroll legs and a lovely high back, padded seat. And I asked him if that was anywhere in the council chamber, anywhere, and he said no. I don't know if we can circulate a picture of that chair, perhaps, Mr. Keady, and see if anybody knows where it might have gone.
Yes, just a couple of things on this particular item. On the asset register, I've only included those things for which I've been able to find an audit trail, either an invoice or a minute. Now, I suspect that the chair that you've flagged up with me, which I haven't previously seen before, was inherited from Hetton House, and without any documentation to actually determine this stage of value of it, it probably won't appear. But you're right, it's gone AWOL. I did speak to the caretaker very late this afternoon before I left to see if he had any sight of it. And the last time he saw it was at the big Christmas event where Santa used it.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
Councillor Willis is just waving a hand at you.
She is.
Yeah, Councillor Willis.
Right, is this the, sorry, I missed a bit because these you think is crap. Is this that old fashioned chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, it's a Del Cab. Santi sits on it.
Yeah.
It went up there for Santi.
Chamber when I started in 1987. So not really documentation.
It's Santi's throne. If you want it back, I can get it delivered down. That won't be a problem.
But I don't know where I'm going to put it.
Is that
it can stay up there.
Is that Sandy Moody, Christine?
No, Santi Trevitt.
All right.
Or anybody else who.
Mr. Keady, you can sit on it.
But if you do want to deliver them back down, you know, you're more than welcome, but it is safe up there. And Santi's the only one that sits on it.
No, it's not a very good, it's not a very comfortable seat.
No, it's a bit rickety as well. Santi can't move. Yes, so I do apologise, but we do have it. I borrowed it and just never took it back, basically.
To be honest with you, when I saw the picture this afternoon, I thought it looked like what I could only describe as a haunted seat from one of these old-fashioned movies.
It's definitely different.
It had a look about it, which made me a little uneasy. As long as I know where it is. That's the
yes, it's up there, but if you ever want it back, just let us know and I'll get the boys to drop it off.
Right. Thank you for that.
No worries.
That was an interesting diversion, wasn't it? Any other queries on the asset register?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just think on behalf of us all, I'd like to thank the town clerk for his endeavours in compiling this missing asset register and bringing the council one step towards completing its legal requirements. It's obviously been a labour of love, town clerk, and we thank you for it.
Thank you.
Councillor Dodds, she wanted to speak.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to ask. The Christmas tree lights East Stratton in Morsley.
Yeah.
What about the Hetton ones not to be added to that?
Right, I'll just come back to you on that. Yes, you prompted me. I was going through the additions, and so after the iron block rocker, you'll see that the tree lights for East Street and Moolsey are now included. There are still some uncertainties in my mind about the Hetton Christmas tree lights. And again, if you recall it, the last, I can't remember which meeting it was now, but I did agree to bring a paper to council or one of the appropriate committees to have a look at this. I've still got a couple of questions on it, but it looks to me like the Hetton tree lights are included as part of the private finance initiative. Now, don't get too excited about that, because my inquiries so far are that even though they might be part of the PFI, and we may not have purchased them outright or directly, we're still responsible for their upkeep and repair. Now, I'm just trying to get to the final details of that, and I will share with members. So that, as I said earlier, the only things that are on the asset register currently are those items which are found in documentary audit trail for in forms of either minutes, invoices, orders, or something else. And unfortunately, at this stage, the Hetton Christmas tree lights have eluded me. Councillor wishes to speak.
Thank you, Madam. Just on the Christmas lights, I'm sure that the contract said to erect and dress the tree. So those ones might belong to them, but we did have the town council plaque, the big plaque that goes up. That was purchased by I'm sure that was purchased by the town council.
Yeah, Chairman, just to respond to Councillor Heron and other members, please. There's a little bit of work still to do on this one. It's a blurred picture for me. But what I can tell you though is that the living tree outside the baths still has its lights on. They're clearly visible. So that's something else for us to tackle at an appropriate time. I'll come back to you on it. You wonder what I do all day.
It'll cost quite a bit of money to get them off.
Yes, and the feedback I've had from Balfour BT is that the town council wouldn't put its hands in its pocket to do it. I couldn't possibly comment. I wasn't here. I will get the bottom of it. I'm tenacious in my inquiries. Okay, so can I just ask council any further questions on the asset register, and if not, can council consider approval of it, please?
Councillor Elvin?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I propose that the asset register as prepared by the current town clerk is approved and adopted.
Yeah, Councillor Deputy seconded.
Thank you. Yeah, we okay, move on to item 10.
Yeah.
Financial report. Like me to bring it on screen, or again, all members should have had a copy of it. Can I suggest let's just share this? We have members of the public with us as well who would like to share the financial information. There we go. Just bear in mind, I can't see everybody now. Oh, where's it gone? Give it a second. There was me. Oh, there we go. Right, there's your financial report. Had me worried there for a moment. We've got 71 pence interest again. Don't spend it all at once. And what this one includes again is the community grant awards. I've put on there the proviso it's subject to approval of item 5D, which is the minutes of the Finance and Resources Committee. So those amounts will be going out following council's approval of the Finance Committee recommendations. Okay. Any queries on the financial report?
No.
Madam Mayor, if there are no queries, I'd propose that these be accepted.
Coulson, second.
Thanks. Okay, thank you. Item 11, if we're okay to move on. This was the larger councils forum meeting on the 18th of February. I think councillors Geddes and Waterson were able to attend. Any feedback?
Yes, Chair. Unfortunately, I think Councillor Geddes had technical difficulties, and he missed the meeting. And towards the end, I lost it as well. But whilst I was there, again, obviously it's a huge issue for the Durham councils. But again, it was double taxation, took up quite a lot of the meeting. But they did touch on. Don't shoot me, I'm only telling you what happened. They did discuss councillary conduct with regards to the Hanford issue, you know, the Hanford Council. So there was quite a bit of discussion about councillary conduct in it. Also Zoom meetings and whether it was considered the correct thing to for councillors to black their screens out. Unfortunately, as that conversation went on, I lost, through technical difficulties, I lost contact. So I don't know what they came up with, but it was being discussed as to whether it was the correct thing to do, and whether councillors should actually show their faces and not be allowed to black their screens out. So I don't know where that one went, but that was all that I was there for at that time. Thank you.
Okay, that was item 11. Does council just wish to note that report, an update?
Yes, noted.
Yes.
Excuse me. Moving on to item 12 of the agenda. This is an action arising from the last meeting where there was some discussion, I think, under members' issues about ongoing concerns about a perceived lack of police action following an incident last January. Again, members will have had a report circulated to consider this evening. Again, I'm going to display that on screen if members wish to see it.
Aaron's nodding, so yes, please.
Yeah, bear with me. Nearly there. Yeah. There you go. As I say, members will have had this in advance, and it just outlines an incident which happened in January last year and provides some background to what happened or perhaps didn't happen. And it's for council to determine where it goes next.
Madam Mayor, so this has not been submitted then to the police? Okay,
no,
thank you.
Not at this stage. The action for me from last month was just to bring this report, just to crystallise it so that members had a fuller understanding. Just tell me when I can take that off screen so I can see everyone again. Okay. Everybody had a chance to have a look at that?
Yeah. Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Or at the town council?
Madam Mayor, could I suggest, as Councillor Hopper, who originally brought this up, if you'd like to speak to this, whether he has any proposals to make on the paper provided by the town clerk.
Councillor Hopper.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to make a formal I would like this paper to go to the Chief Constable and see how far we get with that and see whether we actually get it investigated correctly. And then failing that, then bring it back to council and we'll go independently. But really, I think it would be better to deal with it within the Northumbria Police Force initially. So,
I second
or
that.
is it the superintendent? I don't know. Who's the top? Who's the top?
Chief Constable.
Yeah, Chief Constable. Yeah. Okay then.
There is second there. I think, is it Councillor Rome? Sorry.
Yeah, I second that.
I think if one thing we've seen tonight, in my eyes, that we've just been brushed off very lightly. It wasn't really a great challenge at all. And the reason why I've had my camera off, I've been sitting there, extremely disappointing. But yeah, we're on a different item now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, just in terms of moving this forward, it looks there we have a proposal and a second to formally complain to the Chief Constable. My suggestion would be that the report forms the thrust of the narrative in any letter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I agree.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're okay to move on?
Yeah.
Thank you. In 13, planning matters. Yeah, and I'll bring these up on screen.
Councillor Thornton's going to rule herself out for these, yes, sorry. And also Councillor, where's Councillor? He's gone. Councillor Geddes, you're going to do Kingfisher Drive? Thank you.
I'll just leave the meeting at this stage, if that's okay. If you'd like to invite me in for the last couple of items, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Thorne, just before you go, it's nothing about any individual planning. It's just, how is it everything gets addressed to Hortley Spring? Is Hetley Hall being wiped off the map?
I don't know what your point is.
My point is, we don't live in Hortley Spring. These planning matters are addresses in Hetley Hall, not Hortley Spring. It always comes up at Hortley Spring.
I haven't included them on the agenda.
Pardon?
I haven't included them on the agenda, have I? So I don't know why you're addressing me the question.
I'm just asking a question.
Right.
Why is it when?
Well, it may be for someone else to answer then.
Town Clerk?
Yeah, Chairman, my understanding is that whilst it may be somewhat of an irritation to the good folk of Hetton, but I believe that Hetton's formal post town is Hortley Spring.
It was
And
the
that's all it is.
Hortley Spring, yeah.
That's all it is. It's like if you live in Wickham, although it's in Gateshead, it certainly used to be the case. It was Wickham, Newcastle upon Tyne, which used to irritate them no end.
Yeah, that still is the case. Okay, I'll take my leave. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no idea where some of these are then.
So I'll just go on to the first one.
Fisher Drive must be near Councillor Geddes because he said it was about 4 or 5 doors off him.
Yeah, if I'm just this one has been, if I remember rightly, full council, then to planning and development. And what happened was, sorry, Councillor Rome has a hand raised. Councillor Pearson.
Sorry,
what happened was that I was asked to seek more information from the City Council just to provide clarification.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just to confirm, we needed more information on the application form because the application form said there were 2 parking spaces, and after the retrospective work was done, that 2 parking spaces would be lost. Southern City Council sent a planner out and they confirmed that there will be 1 parking space left, and they were quite happy with that. So I have no objection to this now that one of the planners has been out.
Okay. Oops.
No objections.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Taken from hearing the conversation there, that the town council response is no comments or objections.
That's perfect.
Okay. Thank you. Can somebody ask Councillor Geddes to rejoin, please?
Just if you build a new house or an extension and it has 4 bedrooms, you have to have 2 parking spaces, but you don't get planning.
I'm just going to bring you back on there. So was that further?
I could just
discussion on
come
this
in
one?
there, Council Deputy, and I totally agree with you, but if they made a retrospective planning consent and applied for it to be as it is and they've got it, then there's nothing we can do. It is what it is.
Waterson, are you asking Councillor Geddes to come back in there, or?
I can't. Sorry, I'll just see if I can get him back in.
I can't get him back.
Wait a minute, I'll get him. I'll see if I can get him back. Hang on. Yes, I've got him. I've got him
You've
back.
got him? That's fine.
Just give him a second to rejoin. Right. Councillor Geddes, are you back with us?
Mute
Yeah.
if you are, Councillor Geddes.
Well, he's shown again on the screen. He's on mute.
All right,
He's showing
so he's
again
there. Okay.
Okay, the next planning application was land south of Redburn Row.
Yes, this particular planning application just explained to the council that this land there was an application that was approved in 2014, but it was for 27 dwellings. It did lapse and it's been brought up again, but this time there's an application being made for 45 dwellings. Now, this particular piece, pockets of land, was highlighted by the what's the name of it? The Protection of Rural England, when we submitted our comments on the draft allocations plan, that they were concerned about this intruding into the countryside too much. So in view of that, I think we need to do some work on this and get some comments submitted. But as there wasn't enough time to get anything together by this evening's meeting, I've asked the clerk if he can write to Sunderland City Council and get an extension so we can look at this in greater depth and get some more comments off.
Town Council happy to proceed along those lines? I'm looking at the signals I'm getting from members. That seems affirmative.
Yep.
And then the final planning application this evening. Coming up in just a moment.
I saw two hands up there. So Councillor Romand.
That's Councillor Waterson, I think.
Waterson, I think so.
Right.
May I speak, madam?
Yes, fine, Councillor Romand.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about this because there's only 3 documents on the planning portal, and one is something about a section 80 has been applied for, which is just an application to demolish something. Now, this engine shed, I have a feeling it could be one of the last engine sheds in Hetton. And I do recall going back a good 10 or 15 years ago, if anybody can remember the really huge engine shed, that was where Lyons Gardens is now.
Yeah.
There was a hue and cry about that being demolished. But what people didn't realise when that was being demolished for the Lyons Garden estate to be built, the demolition approval had been given several years before. So there was nothing anybody could do about it. So I'm concerned. Sorry?
It was a listed building?
It wasn't.
The old one?
No.
It wasn't, John.
It wasn't.
Anyhow, my point is, I think we need to look at this because it could be the last engine shed. I don't know if the history group is aware of this. Don't know if maybe Beamish Museum want to take it down brick by brick. But I think it would be a calamity. It would be a calamity if it was just knocked down. And if you read the description, they're going to use the bricks for rubble on the land. I think we definitely need to do something about this. That's all I've got to say. Any other comments from anyone else?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
Councillor
do.
Watterson and then Councillor
Great.
Dodds, I believe, as well.
Yeah, I've looked into this building, and it's the building was originally the Hetton Colliery Railway Wagon Repair Shops. It is the last remaining building associated with the colliery and the railway at Hetton Lyons. It was built during the reorganisation of the colliery and railway by James Joyce in the 1920s. Should this be demolished, it will be the last vestige of Hetton Lyons colliery and railway after 200 years of history. At the present time, you know, I think all the councillors are aware that we do have the Railway 200 group who are trying to set up the bicentenary celebrations for the Stevenson's Railway. And much organisation and hard work is going on by these people and by the committee there. I think, you know, on one hand, we were supporting this, a local celebration for heritage. And on the other hand, we've got a planning application here to knock down another building, another piece of heritage for Hetton. I think my view is that we should try and involve urgently the heritage officer through at Sunderland City Council, and maybe go down that route and see if there's some way we can stop the disappearance of this last final building. You know, that's part of Hetton's history. And I think a lot of people in Hetton feel very strongly about this. Again, I know it's a concern because we were successful in stopping the development for the Lyons Tavern. I know it was on a lot of planning issues, but I felt for it historically we saved that, and yet it's standing there and going into disrepair. So I do say that if we go ahead and object to the demolition of this building, that we have to come up with some options, or we have to press Sunderland to either get the building listed to safeguard it from being demolished, or you'll have an outcry from people saying, well, that's the lot, that's it, that's all gone for Sunderland, for Hetton, sorry. Okay, that's my views, thank you.
Councillor Dodds? Councillor Dodds, yeah, and then Councillor Heron. Sorry.
I think we need to find out whether the building is in secure state or whether it is the roof just holding it up. I am aware that I've been trying to speak to Sunderland with regards to this and find out where it is and what the planning can actually do, because it's already down for demolition, but it is the planning authority can impose conditions on it. And I think we should try and find out if the planning authority, if Sunderland has through planning imposed some conditions and what these are.
Well,
and I think from what I understand, it's probably too late at this stage to save it, and getting it listed before it's demolished. It's remote possibility.
That it, Councillor Dodds? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Heron?
Thank you, Chair. It's just to follow on from Councillor Dodds. I have been making some inquiries myself, and I understand that they don't really need a planning permission. They need a consent from the local authority, which is normally given. I went round to have a look where I could see from the fence, from the outside fence. Obviously, I'd be trespassing if I went in. The roof is in a bad condition, and I'm not sure what the walls would be like inside. The Boys Club railway engine part of it was knocked down in the 70s. Water got into the walls between the two walls and burst the walls in the winter. So it had to be demolished in days, actually. But the building the brickwork looked as though it is aging, but it didn't look too bad to me from the outside what it was like. Obviously, I don't know what it's like on the inside. Well, Councillor Dodds is right. Time is very, very short to try and get this sorted out. We've been in contact with the officers outside who can give us advice, and that was the advice we were given. The best option might be for it to be took down brick by brick to Beamish, put it alongside Francis Street and the band hall. We'll have half a head across that just now.
Well, I'm sorry, you know, if that's all we can do, I think that's a
I
sad
agree with you
state of
totally,
affairs.
Councillor.
You're going to have to buy tickets. You're going to have to buy tickets to see half of Hetton stuck in Beamish. Sorry, I'm against anything to do with that.
Elvin?
Surely there must be. Sorry, Chair. I'm quite passionate about this. Surely there must be somewhere we can contact Sunderland urgently and put a stop on any demolition. You know, it's I don't know. I just think it's sad. It's just as if we sit back and we just say, "Oh, crack on, just get rid of stuff," you know, and then we pump money into celebrations. We should be holding on to this history. There should be a blue plaque on buildings like that saying what's gone on in the history that's gone before.
True.
That's how communities.
I would agree with you, but the legislations are in their favour.
What's that about?
Councillor Elvin, then Councillor Rome, then Councillor Dodds.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I very much like, in fact, the impassioned speech made by Councillor Waterson earlier. Could you not formulate that into a definite proposal, which we can then hopefully get a seconder for, and move on? Councillor Waterson, could you make a definite proposal on based on what you said in the beginning?
Quite happy to support that.
Madam Mayor, could I ask that we follow protocol and we raise a hand and ask for you to be admitted? It's members from all sides seem to just keep interrupting willy-nilly.
I do apologise, Councillor Elvin. I will do so.
Thank you.
Quite all right, Councillor Heron.
Okay, Councillor.
Sorry.
You're going to answer back.
I'm doing it now. Sorry, I apologise. I thought I was to come back to Councillor Elvin's request. You want me to put forward simply to state that I think that the engine shed should be saved and that we should go to Sunderland City Council with a request to sort of ask for advice from the heritage officer? Is that the type of thing you're requesting we do? Yeah. That's the proposal, that we go back to planning and we ask to engage, you know, if they can stop the demolition going ahead, and if we can get some help on board from the heritage officer at Sunderland City Council.
Yep, Madam Mayor, if we think that'll stop it and slow it down, I would second that.
Yeah, that's fine. Councillor Rome and then Councillor Dodd.
I would just like to say there are hundreds of thousands of pounds in this heritage fund to the Coalfield Area Committee, with money going out for pit wheels and statues and all sorts. Perhaps one of our city councillors who's sitting on the Coalfield Area Committee, or though not the Coalfield Area Committee, because that's just a box ticking exercise. It's now the committees behind those that agree all the financing, because if we can spend all this money on statues and pit wheels and get Ray Lonsdale to do some new statues, I'm sure we could find the money to put a roof on this and save it.
Proposal by Councillor Waterson and seconded by Councillor Elvin. Is everyone in agreement with that proposal?
Agreed.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Councillor Dodds.
Yep. Chair, I would just like to add to this that could we seek confirmation as to why it's been demolished? Is it in an unsafe state? Maybe by Trackworks, or as part of the the questions going into the council, because if it is unsafe, then maybe it does need demolition. But I think before we start anything else, we need to ask that question. Why is it being demolished, and can it not be used in its current state?
Jerome, do we should come back on that?
Yes, it is on the application form that it is in a poor state of repair, but it doesn't say that it's unsafe or anything.
No, I think,
Yeah, I think we should ask that question, Chair. In what state of repair is it? Is it unsafe? Just seek clarification on that.
Well, if it's unsafe, surely we should, sorry, Chair, can I say, if it's unsafe, surely we should be asking for it to be made safe. But we need to be there urgently to ask them to deny, you know, to deny the application and say no to demolition until further information sought. You know, we've got to put a halt. We've got to put a halt on it and then do the investigating work.
Yeah.
It's Coulson then, yeah.
These buildings are a unique design, and there was some in Philadelphia. I don't know whether they've all gone at Philadelphia or not, but this could be the last in the region.
Yeah.
So I mean, at Ryop, they got preservation orders on pigeon crates as they got a list of buildings. Ryop, believe it or not, a few years.
Yes, yes.
So I don't see why we shouldn't get this to be a listed building. Preferably stay in Hetton.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Elvin?
I know we have a motion proposal and it's been seconded.
Seconded,
There's
yeah.
no. Could we vote on it unless there's any amendments?
I think we've been, yeah, I think everybody here is in agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Councillor Dodds?
Yep, I'm in
Yeah.
agreement with what Councillor
With what-
Waterston said, yes.
Right, thank you. Just I couldn't see you, that's why.
Madam Mayor,
I
I've had my
signalled
hand
you
up.
out, sorry.
Madam Mayor, I've had my hand up about 5 times.
Yeah, I never saw you, sorry, but can you stick it up plainly?
Well, I've had it on the yellow hand and I've had my hand up like that. Can I just make a suggestion to Councillor Waterson? If it's any help to you? Would it be wise to get in contact with the railway people in LCOP and get their backing, because obviously the City Council is sitting on that as well?
Yes, Councillor Geddes, I've already done that. I've already had discussions with them about this.
Champion.
Okay, Town Clerk?
Yeah, again, just listening to that, I've got the gist of the proposal. The comments are being asked for by the 30th of March, and it's already been stated by a couple of members, you know, there's not a lot of time to get some decisions on this. So I think my query to council is, and if I've understood the proposal correctly, it's to get some rationale for the suggestion that the thing's demolished, but also to seek some expertise from the heritage officer or conservation officer, whoever it is. What happens when we've got that and the deadline's looming? I mean, where we're going to go with it?
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I think we need to stop the demolition. Any move towards demolition, that's the objection.
Be
At
halted.
this stage, we need to stop the objection and halt it until we can get further information about the state of the building and what can be done with it. Halt the demolition, contact Sunderland City Council Heritage, contact you know, the Railways 2000, see if they've got any input, and then we can move forward from there. But it's halting this demolition.
Elvin, then Councillor Herron?
No, I was just
No,
going to
you're
say,
okay.
I think they, totally agree with
Big
Councillor
said.
Wharton. We must ask them to stop demolition pending, full consultation.
Herron?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The email needs to go in as soon as possible, because that was the information we got. Time was of the essence to get an objection in. I've been in contact with other people from the council about it, and the objection needs to come in from the town council as well. But we've got to bear in mind that it's a private company that owns that building. I don't think it's a city council building.
No,
No, it belongs to the company. That's definitely, it was Holland Bank and Stop, and they sold it on. Yeah, that's right. I still think that we need to ask to halt the demolition, and then you know, try and get somebody out to check the state of the building, and also at the same time contact Mark Taylor, the heritage officer, and see if there's anything that can be done on the heritage side.
Geddes, is that your hand? That's your hand up.
Yes, please. Would it be advisable to speak with the company themselves and explain the importance of that particular building to Hetton, just to see if they would be receptive?
No.
Councillor Dodds? I should have just saying yes, just saying that's all right.
Yes, Chair, I did ask the town clerk to do that.
Can I just say, from what I heard, there's not a great deal of they won't have a great deal of discussion. Certain people have asked to go in and have asked to have a look around the building, and it was denied. So I think I don't know whether that would be a go of that would. I think we've got to just try and put an objection into the demolition until further investigations are done.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Okay. Yeah.
So, Madam Mayor, I think the town clerk needs to ensure that, you know, that we're objecting to that. We don't want it pulled down until, you know, in the strongest possible terms, we don't want it pulled down until we've had further consultations and discussions with all relevant parties. And it doesn't matter whether it's privately owned or public owned, it's still got to get permission to pull it down. So it makes no difference who owns it.
Yeah.
That was a nice phrase, Councillor Elvin. You repeat it for Mr. Keeley.
Got the recording, don't worry.
All right, okay. Oh, I forgot about that.
No.
Yeah.
A fallback position. All right. Okay, I think I'm clear on that one. The penultimate item tonight is general
I think
correspondence.
Councillor Thornton said that she wouldn't mind if we wanted to, get her back for these last two items.
I can't do that. I've asked another member to see if she can be contacted.
That's fine. Okay.
Believe, Chair of the Highways and Plan Committee cannot but sit and listen to what's going on. It's beyond me.
Chairman, are you ready for me to move on?
Yeah, fine.
What do you call he worked for?
Yes.
I can't remember his name. They're shouting about the main building
It's
because they're going to demolish it.
yeah. I mean, it's a bit rancid.
I think we've got somebody talking on the.
See, Russell.
Can you put?
Get material from one time. That was the building they were doing all
I've
the
got chatter in the background.
I was going to say, can we have a? Can you put the mic off, please?
Well, that was incredible. Basically,
whoever it is.
Not down to put a new building.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
just give me. I want to do it from this end.
Yeah, mute them. Mute them, not mute them.
There's only one.
Got his mic off. Don't worry.
Right, I think that should resolve it.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a correspondence list just to go through. Hasn't been an awful lot this month. The first one, just to bring the members' attention, I was asked to invite the local MP to the extraordinary meeting. I did get a response and I circulated that on the 23rd of February. I think that's just for noting now. Several bits of correspondence from the County Durham Association of Local Councils. I've already alluded to the possible continuation of remote meetings after the 7th of May. And I circulated the first bit of correspondence back on the 22nd of February. I've also circulated to members information about the census on the 2nd of March. And there's also been some information come out very recently about arrangements on marking the death of a senior national figure. And if you remember, we did have some discussions about this in the closed business probably 12 months or so back. This is just an update which I need to read and digest and report back if need be. For the purpose of this evening, just a case of noting that we've had it. I had some elections information last week from the County Association, and this was with a very heavy County Durham focus on it, understandably because they have all-out elections in the Durham area on the 6th of May. I have copied it to my contact in electoral services at Sunderland to see if they are going to put any information out for our by-elections along similar lines. I'm awaiting a response for that. As soon as I get it, I'll share it with all members. I've had notification today of some more financial training opportunities, which I will circulate. And as I've already mentioned, there's some more information come out just today, which I haven't read in any detail about remote and face-to-face meetings. But it's as I mentioned earlier in the in my update. The discussion continues on that. So I suggest that just for noting as well. And the final item on here is from the City Council. It's about a planning appeal against refusal about the Biffa waste at Horton Colliery. I'm just going to bring this on screen. Now, this would have been on the agenda under planning, but unfortunately it just arrived on the 11th, which was after I put the agenda out. So I've included it on here. It's a 2-page. I'll have to do them one at a time for you though. Members should have had a copy electronically of this, but here it is on screen. I'll just give you a moment. Tell me when to move on.
Okay.
Is that all right? And then that was the second page of it coming up. Give it a minute, catching up. Yeah, there's a time scale of the 2nd of April on this one. All right, there you go. Any views? Councillor Room, Chairman.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the top of page 2, it does say if you wish to make comments or modify or withdraw your previous representation, we can do so. Well, we made our representation a year ago. The planning inspectorate apparently is running late. I don't see any reason, unless anybody else has got anything to add to what we said last year, I think we should just say thank you very much and just accept this letter. We don't have to do anything unless we want to withdraw or change, which I personally don't think we do.
No. No.
Elvin?
Yeah, for the avoidance of doubt, Madam Mayor, could we send in and say our position doesn't change, and for the sake of good order, we enclose a copy of our original objection, which is still valid today.
Second that.
Fine with that?
Councillor Heron?
Thank you. It's the City Council that will be dealing with the inspectorate, I believe. The could ask for the Town Council to go along to an appeal, but it would normally be the City Council that presents their case, what's being held. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Rome?
Yes, I did speak to planning and they are submitting their own representation on this. So it's just, just making work, submitting something that it's just another letter for Mr. Keady to do if we do say something. But, our objection is there and it will be considered along with everything else.
Madam Mayor, fair point, but it just say if you wish to make any comments, and what I propose, I thought just belt and bracelet it, but it's entirely up to the full council what they want to do.
Town Clerk?
Chairman, just listening to the comments there, whilst I'm very appreciative of Councillor Rome trying to ease my workload, I think in this case it's simply a one-liner to the City Council. Shouldn't be too onerous for me.
Okay.
So my suggestion would be haven't heard the comments, is to send the notice to the City Council to say that, you know, we have responded previously, here it is again. Simple as that. Just to restate the position.
Marvellous.
Right, I'm not picking up any objections to that approach.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, I'm getting the thumbs up now, right, champion? Right, thanks, Councillor. I know what I need to do. The final item on the agenda is just the date and time of the next meeting, which will be Monday, the 19th of April, 7:15, and it's most likely to be via Zoom again. That concludes business, Chairman.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending, and it's been a long session, but it's been worth it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Members of the
Thank
public,
you.
I'm stopping the recording now.
Bye.
Bye.